Another rainy day, third in succession on the Giro d'Italia, but it's beautiful Prosecco country. Time trial time, the only time trial in this 98th Giro d'Italia. We look back through the history, but also looking forward to a final week. 59.2 kilometers, the longest time trial since the 2009 Giro. A big one today for the new leader, Fabio Aru. Let's go to the finish line. Juan Antonio Flecha, and first, here is Ashley House.
Hello everyone and welcome to Giro Extra, coming to you today from a very wet and cold Valdobbiadene, the end and finish of the individual time trial, this 14th stage of the Giro d'Italia. 3 key days coming up. We're in the mountains tomorrow, but today it's the longest time trial since 2009, and it promises to ask some real questions of the GC contenders. Juan Antonio Flecha is here with me, as always, of course. Juan Antonio, how important is today in terms of the race this year?
I think today is going to be really the first big battle of this Giro d'Italia, because Riders top 6 on GC, they are pretty much close one from the other one. There's not much, gaps are quite small there, and today apparently it seems that it's going to be, in my opinion, the first day that we see those gaps bigger and making like not just 20, 30, 40 seconds. It's going to be something, we'll go more around minutes probably, because it's going to be very demanding stage, and it's everybody's going to battle against the watch, and they have to go full on.
They do have to go full on. The riders started today at 2 o'clock. So far, the fastest time comes from Nikolai Mikhailov at 1 hour, 20 minutes and 32 seconds. He's the Bulgarian from the Polish team CCC Sprandi. More updates throughout the show, of course. But before we look more at today's stage, let's remind ourselves of what happened yesterday.
A big surprise yesterday, another surprise on a Giro that doesn't stop surprising us. Stage 13, so Fabio Aru take the pink jersey on a day that was never meant to be a decisive one. How did the Italian leader take his first pink jersey in a Grand Tour? Well, it all started with around 100 days to go. Breakaway still out there with about a minute of a gap. Matteo Tosato, Alberto Contador and the rest knew that they were in for a fast finale, perhaps not as influential as they thought it may be. A level crossing got in the way. That was the early bit of fun for the day. Nobody trying to get under the barriers this time, and the peloton slowed down by the commissars. Some intermediate sprinting led to minor changes in the points classification. Later up the road, they'd do it all again. With 71 kilometers to go, Nicola Bohem winning the intermediate sprints on both occasions from behind the breakaway to make sure he extended his lead in the red jersey classification. Shake a hand and a salute to the camera from the breakaway riders, Fraporti, Pino and Zabel, who was in his first ever breakaway in professional cycling. With 3.2 kilometers to go, this happened. Rick Flens touching the wheel of Eugenio Alafacci, Alberto Contador going down on the right-hand side, and Richie Porte being caught up in the crash behind as well. Fabio Aru getting away unscathed and coming across the line just as Luca Paolini punctured and Sasha Modolo was led out to victory. Modolo from the Venice region, not quite from Jesolo where they won. The home man Viviani boxed into third place, Nizzolo beaten on the line, as Modolo took his first ever win on the Giro d'Italia, and Fabio Aru crossed the line in the group. Sprinting from behind, trying to make up any damage. Remember the crash occurring just outside 3 kilometers to go, meaning that the time gaps would stand. Contador losing around 40 seconds and losing the pink jersey. Richie Porte losing another 2 minutes and way outside at 5 minutes from the lead. Aru now leading the Giro d'Italia, 19 seconds ahead of Alberto Contador, who would lose a leader's jersey for the first ever time in his Grand Tour career. Mikel Landa in third, Aru the first ever Sardinian to pull on the pink.
So Fabio Aru is in pink currently. A quick update, Luke Durbridge of Orica Green Edge has just set the fastest time, a good time trialist as well. He was expecting to have a good day. It's now at 1 hour 19 minutes and 38 seconds. So Fabio Aru in pink, it was his aim. Richie Porte, Rigoberto Urán, Alberto Contador have all had some bad luck. How much did Aru benefit from good fortune yesterday?
Yeah, he took a good profit of that, of those punctures and crashes and everything, especially crashes yesterday. He benefited especially from Alberto Contador, so he was gaining back those 14 seconds he lost on Monteberico and putting still 19 more seconds. So he's in pink, ahead of the time trial, so he cannot ask for more today.
No, that's true. Now, you saw in the highlights there the crash which happened just outside the 3-kilometre mark. And I know, Juan Antonio, you wanted to talk to us a little bit about the reactions within that crash, both of the Tinkoff Saxo team and of the Sky team.
Well, especially from Tinkoff and especially with Matteo Tosato. He's such an experienced rider. He's ridden already 31 Grand Tours and he's 41 years old. He's got a lot of experience, especially on flat stages. Remember, he's been always a lead-out man and for other sprinters, so he was aware all the time about where Alberto Contador was, where Alberto was not out of trouble. And when he saw him crashing, he immediately tried to give him his bike. He saw Alberto, he needed a bike, and he assisted Alberto at the right time. So every little second that there, it counts, and that's why a good domestic as he is, as Matteo Tosato and experience is, shows how much value is bringing to a team.
That's true, and that's exactly why Alberto Contador actually lost about a minute and a half less than Richie Porte did, because it took Richie Porte so long to get a bike. Let's hear from Alberto Contador after yesterday's stage.
Bueno, pues sí, la verdad que no hay día tranquilo.
Yeah, there's no easy days. Today we were controlled and positioned well all day long, but you can still get caught up in it. We were trying to get away and wait for that 3-kilometre barrier, because of course we got neutralizations there, but it occurred just before then. I tried first of all to make sure that I wasn't hurt, have a look at myself, and then just try and get to the line. I don't think the loss has been that bad, just a few seconds. Of course those seconds cost quite a lot to make up again, but the thing that worried me the most was just the fact that I had a bit of a sore knee, but anything that can get in the way physically is the biggest worry. Does the position change tomorrow for the time trial because of the bit of the bang you took? Well, the problem when you've got a fall is that you go very rigid and you try and tense up before the impact. And of course you never know until the day after, really, the effects that a crash can have. Just got to think in positive mind, keep putting ice on it, and to make sure that I avoid any problem possible. All about recovering for tomorrow.
Alberto Contador, of course, not panicking, even though it's the first time in his career that he's lost the leader's jersey on a Grand Tour. Fabio Aru, on the other hand, said to us, and has said again, that today for him is about minimising losses. Is that how you see today for the pink jersey wearer?
We have to see it that way, because that's the way he mentioned and he related to today's stage. So he's probably assuming that he's not as good time trialist as Alberto Contador particularly is. So he's probably assuming that he just needs to go, even if he's going as fast and strong as he can, he will still be a little worse than Alberto. So he's assuming that. He said, well, my main goal, so he's actually putting a more real world goal, which is, okay, I have to lose the less time possible. That's his goal today. But he's probably, and that's a good thing from him, that's making more honest. That's saying, well, I'm probably not having the best result on this Giro d'Italia, I will have it later on probably. But today, I will be a little bit slower than Alberto. So let's see what happens with that.
We will see what happens. We know that Fabio Aru has been doing a lot of work in the wind tunnels in California, preparing for today's time trial. And his team manager, the team manager of Astana, Alex Vinokurov, is here at the Giro, and he spoke to Giro Extra this morning.
This morning we're at the start meeting with Astana about the TT stage, talking about the ability of Fabio Aru in this specific challenge against the clock.
Well, in
the past we can't say that Fabio Aru was a specialist in TT, so what did he do this winter and how did he work to be better this year?
Well,
it's true, we've worked a very lot with our specialists on this. We worked a lot this winter. He's now much better. And I guess he can do something and surprise the contenders today. Could be more difficult against the specialists of the TT, but against Contador I think he can do something and maybe even keep his jersey. Well, a teammate and a local for this stage, Davide Malacarne will for sure give some advice to his pink jersey leader on the time trial. Well, how is this 59-kilometre circuit today? Well, it's sure that we're going to give quite a bit of advice to Aru, and I'm sure that I know the road very well. We have around 30 kilometres flat with nothing too hard. The second part, though, is less easy. It's up and down, turns, got a bit of everything, but all in all, it's quite a fast circuit, I think. So it's fast, but the bumps in the second part, and the hills, are they really hard, or are they just up and down and rolling all the time? Well, it's not that hard, but it never stops. No really big hills, but it's always intense. We heard that you could maybe change bikes in between those two parts. Do you think that's true? No, I don't think we'll be changing any bikes. I'll see, maybe I'll give some information about changing the wheels before he starts when I've done my bit, but changing the bike for the second part, I'm not really sure, to be honest. Merci indeed. Astana go off to prepare for their time trial. Will Malacarne's advice help Aru? Stay tuned to find out. All the action coming up live. And this is the course that he was talking about. Stage 14 today from Treviso to Valdobbiadene. We're into Prosecco country. It's a 5-star stage according to the Giro organisers. They wanted to attract the likes of Chris Froome to the race here. A very long time trial, 59.2 kilometres all the way to Valdobbiadene.
So that is how today's course looked. Juan Antonio, you rode some of it today. How hard is it as a time trial course, especially in this weather and with the descent towards the end?
Well, weather-wise, the cold and the rain will make it even more difficult. But if we talk about the profile and the stage itself, it's a very long time trial. That's the first thing. And the second thing is like, it's a very flat at the beginning and then rolling roads. I mean, I wouldn't call them real climbs. So actually, it's perfect climb for time trial bikes. They actually, some riders, they can start climbing with a big ring. They can bring big ring some of the climbs. But the most important thing will be pacing themselves for such a long period, which is, it's still very, very long time trial. Descents are quite fine. I didn't see major risk on the descent, didn't see any corner or any bridge or despite being narrow roads, I think it's pretty okay. They can go quite fast. I mean, I'm not saying they have to take a lot of risks, but I will say they can go fast enough on the downhill. They've still been safe.
Let's think about Alberto Contador. We haven't yet talked about the fact that after his crash, he's altered the position of his handlebars on his time trial bike. How significant is it?
You know, cyclists, when they change something, it's normally because it's going to be better. So if Alberto has to change his position due to an injury, that's another story. So he's probably having a worse position, less aerodynamic, but probably more comfortable for him, especially for his injury. We don't know now how bad is his injury. I think it's way better. I mean, it's been improving very well, but still, he's keeping that position on the time trial that he changed already last week, and he was already thinking about doing that. So he's probably planned it, and he prepared, and he's ready for changing that. How much is going to affect? Well, I think first, as I mentioned before, he will have a less aerodynamic, but I'm worried also more about, because riding that hard in a different position, that could cause him another little likely problem, muscle. I don't know.
Alberto, of course, goes towards the end today. I'll let you know the times in a moment. Let's think, though, about the winner of last year's longer time trial at the Giro d'Italia, Rigoberto Urán. And he's worked a lot on his time trialing, and he won by quite a distance last year.
Last year, Rigoberto did an impressive ride, and he impressed many people. Winning that time trial was a long time trial again, and was more rolling, was not that many flat sections than that it was today. But if we look at this year, Tirreno Adriatico, Rigoberto, if you compare Rigoberto and Alberto Contador, Alberto did a way better result than Rigoberto did at Tirreno Adriatico. It was a shorter time trial and different race and different moment of the season. I still keep thinking that even if Rigoberto is a former winner of the time trial of last year, Giro d'Italia, I think today we will see a better performance, especially from Alberto Contador.
Great, Juan Antonio, thank you very much indeed. Just to let you know some of the key timings then, we talked about Rigoberto Urán. He goes out at 3:27 this afternoon, and it's then Landa, of course, Cataldo, and Alberto Contador as well. On the course right now, for your interest, Diego Ulissi, who finished second last year, and Ilnur Zakarin as well. Lots to look forward to, a fantastic time trial coming up, and a key day in this 98th Giro d'Italia. Let's give you right now to your live commentators for this wonderful 14th stage.
Thank you, Ashley. A very good afternoon to you all, wherever you're watching around the world. Mechanical problems straight away for Marek Rutkiewicz as he's headed towards the finale. We've got riders coming across the line all the time. We've seen Matteo Tosato up there. 1 hour and 24 minutes, 34 seconds. Good enough for 24th place at the minute, but look at that. 5 minutes and 3 down. Lots of big gaps already. Let's get you up to date straight away. And Luke Durbridge is the leader at the minute. He's set the fastest time, 1 minute and 4 faster than the previous effort by Nikolai Mikhailov. An hour, 19 minutes and 28 seconds. 1 hour, 19 minutes and 28. That is the top time set so far by Luke Durbridge of Australia and Orica Green Edge. 4 riders not starting today to tell you about: Greg Henderson, Andre Greipel from Lotto. So the sprinters going home, with Michael Matthews of Orica Green Edge and Tom Bonan leaving as well. This is Chad Haggard's time at the minute, and it looks like it's going to be good enough for second place. He's the man coming across in the dark kit there. 52 seconds down on second place. A good ride from the American, who is making his Giro d'Italia debut. Well, riding to Valdobbiadene today through Prosecco country. Lots to look at, even though it is a poor day weather-wise. Durbridge leading by 52 seconds. Mikhailov in third, with Porsev fourth. Chris Juul Jensen at the minute in 5th place. Lots of differences expected as we look out to the Belgium time trial champion, who is Christophe van der Walle. 1 hour and 12 in the saddle for him. Van der Walle, one of the favourites maybe to pick up one of the top times early on, but I think we're looking to the guys on the general classification to have a real go for this one. Kirienka's out there riding at the minute. Time trial specialist as well on his day, the man from Belarus. But so much to talk about. Aru in pink, the first Sardinian in pink, the man leading the Giro d'Italia, the second youngest man in pink in the last 10 years as well, if you think about him and Adriano Malori, who held the jersey just a couple of years ago. Loads to talk about, and of course the big men to come out later on. Times for your afternoon: the main man, Aru, out at 15:42 local time. That is just before 2:45 if you're watching on British Eurosport. 15:39 local time for Alberto Contador. Your Richie Port fans, 14:54, and Rigoberto Urán at 15:27 All the stage coming up right after this. With Enrico Barbin, who almost hit the floor in that final corner. They managed to see the funny side. He's going to finish in 66th position. Good afternoon, everybody. Anyway, it's Treviso to Valdobbiadene today, the 59.2 kilometre time trial that for many people kicks off the really hard stages of this Giro d'Italia. The funny thing is, though, we've seen the general classification affected by the so-called simpler stages of the Giro d'Italia. Yesterday, supposedly the easiest stage in the whole Giro, as flat as a snooker table it was, not a single lump or bump in it, but just outside 3 kilometres to go, we had a disaster. It was a 10-pin bowling-style crash that saw the Maglia Rosa hit the deck. Thanks to the quick reactions of Tosato, Jules Jensen and other teammates, Contador was able to remount and finish by limiting the damage to Aru, who just escaped the fall. Richie Porte came across the line later with the look of a man, though, who knew that his pink jersey bid was over. Alongside me to watch it all is Sean Kelly, and probably to watch Patrick Gretsch set the new fastest time here. It's an interesting one today, Sean. We're going to see people going for the stage like Gretsch. We're going to see, of course, the likes of maybe even Ilnur Zakarin, who's out in the course, put in a good time as well. It is all about the GC guys, though, and as we watch Gretsch sprint for the top time across the line, it's going to be an hour and a quarter of maximum effort in the rain amongst the hills of Prosecco country and hoping to set the top time, maybe make the difference. Big changes perhaps today coming up on general classification. Guys who may win the stage and not affect it, but in all likelihood the guys at the top are going to be the guys who have a chance of taking pink. Patrick Gretsch sets a new fastest time, 1 minute and 13 seconds faster than Luke Durbridge. We're already getting huge time splits, Sean, and I think we're going to have bigger time splits today as well amongst the guys chasing the pink jersey.
Well, I think it's inevitable we'll see big splits because, you know, the distance here is one thing. 59.4 kilometres, it's a long time trial. Again, the wet conditions, as we've been having for the last number of days, that can take an effect. And the first 30 kilometres pan flat, and then, you know, it's quite a bit uphill. And the categorised climb is 5 kilometres, let's not forget. So when you're going at, you know, full bore, big gear stuff, and then you hit the climb, it's hard to adjust on the climb and make that change in gear and change in rhythm. So it's definitely going to be a big one for the general classification, man. It's always very nervous times that you can put in a good time. And of course, you know, when you look at the general classification, Aru, he is going to be really under pressure because he's a little bit in the unknown. You know, he's in a situation now, race leader, he's home, big Grand Tour, and the pressure is really on. And as we heard from some of the people, you know, it's about limiting his losses, but how much can he limit that to be? That is the big question.
Questions about Alberto Contador's position as well to be answered. Rigoberto Urán's haircut and saving him 10 watts apparently. All those things to talk about later on today. And of course, we have Vasil Kirienka overtaking his man. Riders going at the space of a minute earlier on today. By the time we get to the big guys at the end, we're going to have 3-minute intervals. Kirienka, Sean, is one of the specialists around in the time trial, and especially over a distance of 60 kilometres, he could be a man to watch.
Yes, certainly is a man to watch because, you know, he's so powerful. We've seen him when he gets into breakaways, long ways out. He's so strong at the finish. He can handle the distance very well, and the flat he can ride very strong. The hills we've got here, he can ride really strong on them because he's a big, powerful rider. He can get up much steeper hills, so he is a candidate, and it looks like he's at the catching a number. He's the man in front. I think he might be catching his second man there, so he's, if not more, so he's, you know, pulling in the guys off ahead of him.
Tobias Ludvigsson there at 1:18:31. Luke Durbridge set the second fastest time at the moment. Just seen Patrick Gretsch go through. So Ludvigsson, the Swede, is a strong time trialist. However, he's a man who is not going to get up and take the top spot just yet. Looking behind, Kirienka was a man to watch. He was 1:16. He was well inside the last kilometre and a half. So we could be seeing Patrick Gretsch's early time challenge. Ludvigsson's giving it his all here at the minute, trying to sneak into second place as it stands. Lots of guys to watch as we come through Prosecco country. Stage today heads north from Treviso towards Conigliano. A left turn there and then heading into the foothills of the Dolomites and up to Valdobbiadene. There is Ludvigsson Second place now, quicker than Luke Durbridge. A shame he didn't come over before Patrick Gretsch. He would have briefly had the quickest time and a bit of a cheer. Now this is a man to watch. Vasil Kirienka, teeth gritted, 1:17.34. The time he has to beat is that one that's underneath him, and it looks as though we may well have a new leader here. Patrick Gretsch at 1:18.15. Vasil Kirienka. Sky expected to challenge today through Richie Porte. More about him and where it's all ended up for Richie Porte very soon. But this is a top time from his teammate. Vasil Kirienka setting the fastest time. 1:17.52. 23 quicker than the next man with an average at 45.77. Now Vasil Kirienka on his day could win a stage like this. Today though, Sean, he's going to be a really important man for Richie Porte. He's going to tell him how it went, communicating things back to the car, and just an advisory as to how things are going out on the car.
Yes, well, especially when you're going out there and giving it a real 100%. And Kirienka have definitely done that. We see the time he's done. So, you know, it will be very valuable information. The question is, Richie Porte, how much morale he's got. That is the big question, because we did see him yesterday. He finished with the morale totally in his shoes. Can he recover from that? And this is a time trial, I think, where, you know, Richie Porte can really do well, and he has to try and pull himself together. But the question is, will he be able to do it?
A big one for Richie Porte. If he puts in the performance of his life here, you never know what might happen, because he is, alongside Rigoberto Urán, probably the favourite for this stage pre-race. So much has happened in the last few days, though. And he looked like a beaten man yesterday when he crossed the line with Richie Porte. He wasn't the Alberto Contador rushing to try and get over the line and limit the losses. He's more than 5 minutes down here as Richie Porte. But with a nightmare for some rivals and an exceptional performance today, there may just be another glimmer of hope.
Well, if he can put in a big ride today, you know, it'll be chapeau to recover from all of that, what he's had in this Giro. And yesterday we did see him as well with our cameraman at the finish line. You know, we had a few words. Big champion, because when you have such a disaster, not once but twice, and you become, you know, you're 5 minutes down in the general classification and the journalists start asking questions, the last thing you want to do is talk to them. You want to get to your bus, put a towel over your head and get away from everybody. But, you know, he gave a few words yesterday. He was, you know, really disappointed, which is very natural, but fair play, chapeau to him. He did talk to the journalists, and let's hope he can do it right today, because you know, he's just had such bad luck in this race.
Last time you and I saw him do a time trial was on Col d'Aise in Paris-Nice in March. He was exceptional that day. Here is Richie Porte with one last chance to save his Giro d'Italia. Down the ramp, going from Treviso to Valdobbiadene, and the Australian time trial champion riding for the British team Sky out there on the road on a wet and miserable day on the Giro. Can things get better for him, or will we not even see him make Milan? Lots of questions to be answered over the next hour and a quarter from Richie Porte, and we will see as he's on his way. First 30 kilometres dead flat, and it's an interesting one, this, in that how you measure your effort, how you go about it. Of course, this has been studied and studied by Team Sky. They've just had the advantage of Kirienka to come back, and all that information will be fed through to Porte, Sean, in the ears. We'll talk about that after we come back from our next commercial break. Richie Porte, though, is on his way in his Australian national colours. We'll be back with you on the home of cycling. Remember, building up to the likes of Urán, Contador, and even Fabio Aru, the leader. Sylvain Chavanel, the French time trial champion. He's got the tricolour showing off well on the streets of northeast of Italy. Heading inland today, away from Jesolo at the coast yesterday, very close to Venice, into the white wine region and the sparkling wine region of Prosecco today. Go through Conigliano, then up to Valdobbiadene, that's got quite a few denomination of origin grapes up there. Are we going to see vintage Richie Porte today, or are we going to see the Richie Porte, the unlucky Richie Porte of the last few days? Remember, he started the season so well, winning 3 stage races. In fact, half of the stage races that Sky have won this year. Of course, in terms of the look, he's got another bad day. He's having to wear a white skin suit as the national champion of Australia, and it's a horrible wet day. It's going to be a right old mess, that. As you can see, the number already flapping in the wind right at the bottom. Richie Porte, though, Sean, even with the bad luck this week, he'd have to be one of the favourites to take the stage today, wouldn't he?
Well, I would expect so. You know, a time trial like we've got here, I think it suits Richie Porte very well, but again, sometimes riders, you know, it's hard to recover, but normally, you know, I think Porte he just sit down last night and say, well, the general classification now it's over, but I can do something in this time trial. If he can win that, well then he pulls something out of the race and see where he goes from here. And the problem is, it's not his form has been the problem. It's just been unlucky, and you have to think about that. Everybody can have an unlucky day, and we heard the other guys, Aru, Contador, saying, well, every day things can change so much, and that's the way you've got to look at it, and just try and get over it and to get out there and do your best. And Port, of course, time trial will suit him perfectly.
Leopold Koenig is currently Sky's best placed rider in the general classification, 15th in the standing at 4 minutes and 24 seconds. He's also a very, very decent time trialist, is Leopold Koenig. He could end up being the Sky leader by the end of the day and even going into next week. Here's Markus Burghardt, German, who's not going to trouble the scorers at the top of the standings. Luver Varka's time going past him as well there. 1:22.28 at the minute as Burghardt's into the final few hundred metres. Big, strong rider who's done quite a bit of riding on the front during this opening 2 weeks, we have to say now, the Giro d'Italia. We started 2 weeks ago today in Liguria, all the way back up to the northeast of Italy, and waiting for a stellar last week with the mountains to come. Burghardt just under 1 hour and 23 minutes, best for a 24th place at the minute. But you can see, look at these differences opening up already. 4:56 from the top time, and he's in the top 24 or 25. That final corner, Sean, is going to be a horrible, horrible one if anybody's really nervous towards the end.
Well, it's always dangerous. The time trial bike, wet roads, any sort of a corner when you're going at high speed. We did hear Fletcher talking, the roads are pretty good. They're not really technically, very, very dangerous out there. There's no, real dangerous corners, but still on the time trial bike you have to knock your speed off a lot. And of course, when you're in the final, you just want to go, and every second, every part of a second counts, and you're pushing on, and you're going to the limit around those corners, and a little correction on the time trial bike, you can find yourself sliding off very quickly. So it's nervous times for everybody. Where in the dry conditions, road hold is so much greater, and you can just go into those corners much faster. And if you have to make a correction, it's not as bad. But in the wet conditions, you have to get it perfectly right. So the route there, you have to register in your head when they went out there this morning to see it, whether they were out on the bikes or in the cars. You have to try and remember the dangerous points, and there you have to be very careful not to arrive with too much speed on.
Well, a lot of people did go out and have a look this morning. I know that Richie Port went away riding a couple of the climbs this morning. Didn't ride the whole course, but rode a couple of the climbs. Sean said a few guys may have followed early teammates in cars and things like that. Sylvain Chavanel's the French time trial champion. Looking for a Giro stage win for Jan Cycling. Doing his best today. Has not been on the Chavanel form of the last few years. Now here's a special day for this young man. Davide Formolo's already had a very special day, winning a stage early on in the Giro d'Italia, but he wears the white skin suit today as the best young rider. I should say second best young rider, with Aru in pink. But you get the idea for Davide Formolo. You can see the gel stuffed up his arm, up the shorts as well. He has his food ready. Davide Formolo with another big test for him today. And Sean, time trialling is something that this guy, just like Fabio Aru's had to do over the winter. If you want a challenge for general classification honours and you're a gifted climber, this is something that over the years, to become a top GC man, you really have to work on.
Yes, well, you have to be able to time trial, and you look at the situation, Aru's position today against a Contador, for example. You have to try and improve. If your time trialing is off the pace of the bigger ones, as Aru's is, we would expect, well, then you have to work on every little detail. The wind tunnel is very important, and we've heard all about that with Stan. They've worked on it a lot. But looking at Aru, when you look at his career, the way he's improving, last year there was a big improvement. Now he's been to the wind tunnel. It's going to be very interesting to see what he can do in this time trial. Of course, physically, how is he? Because we did see him 2 days ago, he was suffering a bit. Yesterday he took the jersey. Lucky really that he was just in the right place. He didn't get caught up in the crash. That is going to be also, the interesting one. Is he ever suffering a bit in the days previous, the last three days of racing? And if he is, well then, he could pay that he hasn't got the power. And this one is going to be very, very demanding. 60 kilometres individual time trial. It's a huge effort. When you look at it an hour and a quarter, it's going to certainly catch some out, and who will be the ones get caught out today.
It's interesting you mentioned Fabio Aru's little hunger knock the other day. In fact, there was talk in the Italian papers this morning that Aru actually had a stomach problem on the day to Imola. We know he had stomach problems before the Giro d'Italia. They kept it quiet because of tactical reasons. They didn't want this man's mate, Boiro's mate, Contador, attacking. Boiro coming in 10th place, by the way, at 2:53 down. And Emanuele Boiro is a damn good time trialist. If he comes down at 2 minutes 53, just shows that the 13 previous days of this Giro d'Italia can affect you as well a lot.
Yes, I think the marks from the previous days of racing and the Giro since the start, it's been such a a very, very physically demanding race, and the last number of days, the wet conditions as well. We can see there Boiro, a really good time trialist. He should be much closer to the guys on the top of the classification at the moment, but losing a lot of time, and that is going to be surely the case. I'd be major surprised if some of the general classification men don't get caught out today because of the difficult racing we've had in all of this Giro.
Maxime Montfort is another excellent time trialist, the former Belgian champion. He's riding for, of course, Lotto Soudal at the moment. He's riding today all skin suited up. He's had a really good performance so far in the general classification. He's the second best placed rider in his team at the minute. Van den Broek is going to go out in around 6 minutes time, but for now it is going to be this man, Maxime Montfort, who's getting his countdown for Lotto Soudal, trying, if he can put a good performance in here, to reach the top 10 of the Giro d'Italia overall. Montfort on the way, on his way to Val d'Obbiadene. And of course, after 13 days of really hard racing, it's really interesting to see how it's going to take its toll. When we come back, we'll talk about the top 10 of favourites going into this 60k's time trial. Aru don't give up, says the sign, as Sylvain Chavanel's trying to do that as well. Chavanel on his way to Val d'Obbiadene, once an arrival city before in the Giro d'Italia. That was back in 2009 when it was a sprint. Alessandro Petacchi winning stage 3 then from Grado to Val d'Obbiadene. Memory serves me right, he was in the old Maglia Ciclamino, the points jersey. Now changed to the red jersey. Red jersey, by the way, still in possession of Elia Viviani, who went out fairly early on today. Got his time trial done. Big differences, Sean. Everyone's going to have to just mind the time cut as well today. If anybody's really slow and struggling, they could end up out of time, couldn't they?
Well, I think they will have it well calculated. 25% I think was the time I see there in the regulations. So it's a big amount of time, and they will have made the calculation what the fast men will be doing it in. So I don't reckon that they should be. We'll see people out of time unless they're really suffered maybe an injury, sick, or you're totally empty. You could lose a lot of time, but I doubt it very much. The people who are in here at the moment, they're with the idea of continuing on. Of course, we have lost a few riders that was forecast anyway, possibly going home, the big sprinters, so they have left us. So I think all the riders that are still starting out this morning, I think we'll have them continuing on.
Yeah, Greg Henderson and Andre Greipel from Lotto Soudal went home last night. Michael Matthews and Tom Bonan as well. And you think about when these guys are going to leave, you could think, well, time trial today, Mount is tomorrow, but we also finished next to an international airport yesterday in Venice, and sometimes it is as simple as logistics as well. A lot of those guys flying out, and they were probably on the sofa watching the highlights show last night as well. Here's Richie Porte. You just saw him adjusting his helmet there, Sean, trying to settle down a little.
Well, sometimes it just it's hurting a little bit, so you just move it a bit, and it's I don't think it shouldn't be a problem. But yes, for this distance, of course, if it's a short time trial, a pro, you just continue on. Here, the distance of just under 60 kilometres, well, you have time to do things like that. It's not like a pro where you just go, full on right from the start, and you have a moment to just relax, where here you can do that, and that's not going to be the problem. It's going to be interesting now, the intermediate time splits, that we will see what Richie Porte can do against some very good time trials that have been out before. That will be a good pointer, but we see that there's a lot of gaps between riders, but I'd not be concerned about that, because some riders, they're just going to go out here and not ride at 100% at all. So there's going to be massive gaps in the earlier part. It's really like a Richie Porte, Kirienka, of course. Some of the men in the top of that time trial, standing at the moment at the finish, they're the ones who I think we can work out against the big favourites who are starting to go out on the road.
Conegliano, that's where the hills begin. The route of the white wine begins in Conegliano. Lovely, lovely little town. All you football fans, it has its links as well. The brilliant Alessandro Del Piero was born here. Talking of all things football and Juventus, there was a practical joke played in the Androni bus before the start today. You all know that we've been talking about Gianni Savio, aka Swiss Tony, throughout this Giro d'Italia, the boss. Well, he's a big Torino fan, and Juventus have been doing quite well, the other Turin club, very recently, and they plastered the bus with Juventus shirts all over this morning when Gianni Savio walked on. Don't think he'll have been best pleased. Hopefully he saw the funny side of it, though. Richie Porte won't be seeing the funny side of anything at the minute. Around 20 minutes into his ride. Stage victory, I'm sure, on his mind today. Just to see where everybody is. The green and gold of Australia on the bike and on the skin suit as well. So it's not the worst rainy conditions we've had. Of course, there's been a bit of a headwind early on today as well that is supposedly abating by the time that the last few riders go out too. So very, very slight differences in condition. Worse this morning. And now we're heading towards the top 10 of riders today. Giovanni Visconti's getting ready. The worst of the two teammates from Movistar in the top 10. Andrea Amador just ahead of him. Giovanni Visconti has had a very, very good Giro d'Italia so far. 2 minutes and 40. Not known for his excellent time trialling abilities, but this is 60 kilometers long. He's a fighter, and Sean, this is a man riding for a team. Movistar have done a lot of work in the wind tunnel in the last few years. We've seen the improvement with Alex Dowsett doing excellent and taking the hour record. We've seen a lot of guys riding for Movistar have massive improvements in the time trial. The bike suppliers, the clothing suppliers, you could just surprise a few people here, could Visconti.
I'd be surprised if he surprised people. I think Visconti in his time trialling, you know, I think he's gone past that to improve in time trialling. As you mentioned, of Movistar, I think he's the least strongest of the team, and he's going to, you know, lose a bit of time here today, I would reckon.
Well, Visconti now, Amador to come. Amador, who has been in the top 20 in long Tour de France time trials before, as well as we see the man who leads at the moment on the road, Vasil Kirienka on the right, the Belarusian rider for Team Sky. Sylvain Chavanel as he goes through the vineyards of the Prosecco region. 1:16:31. Just trying to get an idea of exactly how far he is from the line here. Kirienka's time, looking from that, if he's not inside the final 2 kilometers there, doesn't look like it's under threat from Chavanel. This is Richie Porte in the meantime. Working hard, studied this, as he does with everything, every objective. They've been over to ride it. All the main GC guys have had a look at this. Even Alberto Contador came after he heard that it was very, very hard. And as we'll say later on, when Contador hits the road, he was actually quite pleasantly surprised. He thought it was easier than people had suggested to him. Italian flags out across the bridge here. Bit of a breeze blowing from left to right. Ever so slight cross tailwind maybe. Czech flags out there for Leopold Koenig, as we see Roman Kreuziger. In fact, it's Mick Rogers, pardon me. Both Rogers and Kreuziger excellent time trialists. Rogers not the very top level that we saw him when he won the World Time Trial Championship on 3 occasions. And again, as we saw earlier on, I think Rogers and Kreuziger are going to have quite an important role to play for Alberto Contador in telling him exactly how everything is on the road, isn't he?
Yes, and I think Mick Rogers is not really going to... I'd be surprised if he really go out and gives it 100% here with what's to come in the final week. I would reckon that he will ride his time trial at an easier pace. Kreuziger, of course, you know, he's very much up there, so he's definitely going to give it his all, because in 4th position at the moment at 1:38 down, he is a good card to keep up there for Tinkoff Saxo, so they will, you know, really have he'll be the one who'll be pushed to do a time. But Rogers, I reckon, I'd be surprised if we see him. He's capable of doing it, and we've seen the way he's been riding, and he's been doing it Trojan work for Alberto Contador in the last number of days especially, so I think today he will take it a little bit easier.
Sylvain Chavanel with that final right-hand turn coming up. He's not going to win the stage. This is the corner, just where everybody's being really, really sheepish. Takes it well though, certainly compared to a couple of guys who almost got into the barrier straight away. Sylvain Chavanel looking at trying to put himself into third place. A little faster than Ludvigsson perhaps. See when he gets to the line, another 100 meters or so still to go. Might be bumped down into fourth, I fear, for him at the minute. And Sylvain Chavanel not going to be quick enough for third place as it stands. Top ride though in the rain nevertheless. Since the start of the year really has not found his top form, Sylvain Chavanel. And in the end it will be a fifth place as it stands for Sylvain Chavanel. 1 minute and 41 down on the top time, which is looking a very good time set by Vasil Kirienka.
Yes, and 1:41. You know, he's still up there in the top places, but it's a long way down time-wise. It just shows the difference between the guys. But I think Chavanel, we haven't seen him firing on all cylinders here. He hasn't been, in that form of past, and this sort of time trial would suit him much better. But I think his time trialing of late is not as strong as it has been.
Thanks to all of you for writing in on #HomeOfCycling as Richie Porte reaches 40 kilometres to go. Michael Hanlon's written in just asking what's happening to the intermediate time checks. Well, your guess is as good as ours. We're still waiting for them ourselves. We're hoping to get some from the likes of Richie Porte, Uran, Contador, Aru, just to see where the GC fight is happening. Of course, all the talk of Uran earlier in the week, perhaps being out of it. A very, very good race from him today. We're told he's feeling ever so slightly better. Bronchitis is disappearing. Still a bit of pain in his neck, but he's had his hair cut. 10 watts to the better, apparently. And he could well put himself back into the fight for the pink jersey today. All depends on how those above him go as well. Oh, finally a nice aerial shot of Prosecco country. Looks much better in the sunshine, I promise you. Kirienka still leading by 23 seconds from Patrick Gretsch. Ludvigsson in third place. Durbridge and Chavanel up there in the top 5 as well, but all that is going to change. Here's the man we were talking about, André Amador. And if you're looking for somebody to surprise a few people today, this could well be your man. He has a decent record in long time trials. However, like Fabio Aru, the leader, he's never competed in a time trial as long as this on the road before. He's 2 minutes and 21 from the lead of Fabio Aru. I think even he would admit that when we get to the really high mountains this week, he's not going to be in the mix overall for the podium or anything like that. But on a big time trial today, he could rocket up the standings and even look towards the top 5. It's all to play for André Amador. Good, strong time trialist. He's finished in the top 20 in the long Tour de France time trials a couple of years ago. And André Amador is off on the road. Here's Richie Porte. I have a feeling, although we haven't got the checks in front of him, here we go, 1 minute and 57 down already on Kirienka. 1:57 down already on Kirienka at 17.6 Ks to go. Richie Porte's head's fallen off.
Yes, definitely. He's not in the race at all. When you see that time down at this point in the time trial, it's not the place where we would expect Richie Porte to be. And sometimes guys can recover, other times, when you have so much bad luck and you lose time like he has been through bad luck, well then, very difficult to motivate yourself, and that seems to be the case for Richie at the moment.
Will we even see him finish this Giro, or will he go off and rest up to play super domestic duty to Chris Froome at the Tour de France? That's the next question, I think, for Richie Porte. But we will see. We move on. Rigoberto Urán, the Colombian time trial champion, waits. Richie Porte at the minute has lost a lot of time on his teammate. Time to go and speak to Sylvain Chavanel in the meantime. Well, we're on the arrival line with Sylvain Chavanel. For your fifth at the minute. What do you think of this parcours?
C'est un parcours très long déjà d'une part.
Well, it was very long, this parcours.
La fin de parcours est très
really difficult.
C'est deux bosses à gérer.
It's quite difficult and delicate in the end and tricky to sort of deal with, I think. I think the GC contenders in these conditions could do really good time trials, I think.
Très escarpé. Comment vous l'avez abordé? J'ai essayé de m'appliquer la première partie.
There's two parts of this circuit.
Et puis après,
well, you've got the flat bit at the start where you'd be focused on the start bit, get a good advantage, and on the second bit, well, I just did my best with the hills. It's a really difficult Giro. We're all very tired. Of course, even though I'm the French time trial champion, I tried to do good things, but it's not easy. What about the downhill? With the weather conditions, is it easy to stay on the bike? Well, yeah, it's been wet for 3 days now.
En tout cas, un petit top 20, pourquoi pas? Ouais, on verra. Merci Sylvain.
And of course, if people want to do anything in terms of making time up, they've got to do it for that last kilometre because it's quite difficult on the descent. Caruso is having a really good race for BMC Racing at the minute off, and we just heard from Sylvain Chavanel there talking about the descents and how dangerous it is coming into that final few hundred metres. He said the difference has got to be made then. They don't want people taking risks on that final corner.
No, well, you don't have to be taking major risks on the final corner. The final 2 kilometres, it goes down a bit, and but there's a lot of other downhills before that as well. The time trial, it's right through. You have to be very consistent. Of course, you can lose a bit in the first 20-25 kilometres because it's such a long one here, and if you're really good in the end, when it gets more difficult, when it gets more hilly in the second half of the time trial, if you've got a lot of power there, well, then you can put a lot back. But you have to be consistent right through, and that's what time trialing is about. And a long one like this, to calculate it right, that you don't run out of energy, that's always a real difficult one to do, because you don't know what way the body is going to react over such a long distance, because you don't do many time trials of this distance. And then with the difficult terrain in the second half, it's a bit of an unknown for a lot of people, and you just hope that you can hold on. And even if you're doing a real good time trial at the halfway point, you could really get into difficulty in the second half. And if that happens, well, then the advantage you've built up maybe in the first half of it, you could lose it very quickly in the second half.
It's all about precision planning, but then there's still the element of luck involved. Richie Porte having a nightmare. 35 kilometres to go. It's interesting to see what Sky are going to do with this now, because if Porte is losing so much time so early on, remember we're talking 1 minute and 57 in the first 17 kilometres on his teammate Vasil Kirienko, who has the fastest time so far, then is he going to ride the rest of the Giro, Sean, or is it worth him just resting up and being fit for July?
Well, that is the question. When you're in a race and such a difficult week to come, if you haven't got the morale, I think it's very difficult for somebody to continue. And of course, when you have the Tour of France coming up as well. But yeah, that's team decision. That's between Sky team and Richie Porte. But the question now is Richie Porte. We've been talking about for the last number of years a big tour. Is he a big tour winner? He is 30, we must not forget that. So time is slipping away. This Giro was going to be a very important one for him, to see could he really challenge for a big 3-week tour. Unfortunately, luck has taken it all away from him.
The man who won the time trial last year, the man who was in the Maglia Rosa, the first ever Colombian to wear the Maglia Rosa last year before he was pipped to the final prize by his compatriot Nairo Quintana. Here's the Colombian time trial champion, Rigoberto Urán, fresh from a haircut. He's got that extra 10 watts from the wind tunnel. He has all his aero gear on. He might be a teammate less down, but this is the day where Urán could get himself right back into the fight for the Maglia Rosa. Second last year, second 2 years ago, and Rigoberto Urán off on his time trial. With Porte failing in the early part, this is now the favourite for the stage win, isn't it?
Well, certainly one of the big favourites, and then Contador, of course, you have to take him in as well. But certainly looking on performance of past, his 5th Giro, and as you said, you know, runner-up in the past 2 years. Last year, the interesting one in Bardolo, he what was it, 42 kilometres. Aru was 2:55 down on him, so it'll be really interesting today to see what Aru can really do, because he's the one in the driving seat when you have, you know, the pink jersey, race leader, you're off last. But this one, Rigoberto Urán, he is, you know, guaranteed, I think, pretty much to do a big performance today. How good will he be able to win it? Wait and see.
We have a little look at Muracá del Poggio, one of the modern cycling climbs. In 2009, you saw Giro d'Italia passing through it, and of course, at the Giro, though, no time to stop and enjoy the Prosecco. We're off for a little sip ourselves. See you after this commercial break. Kostas Svitsov approaching the finish line. Sky rider who knows that it's his compatriot, the fellow Belarusian Vasil Kirienka, that holds the top time so far. He finishes 2 minutes 49 down on Kirienka. 10th place at the minute for Svitsov. Further back, his other teammate Richie Porte, the Australian time trial champion, having an absolute nightmare. In terms of the weather conditions, everyone's having a nightmare there. Heading from Treviso to Valdobbiadene today, 59.2 kilometres. First 30 kilometres like a flat tabletop really, before that undulating terrain sees the course surrounded by the vineyards of Prosecco making grapes. This man is at home in that sort of terrain. Diego Lissi, the Tuscan winemaker. Ulissi going for the finish. In the meantime, this looks like it could be Alexandre Géniez. Have to wait and check. He's already on the course for Française des Jeux. Kenny Elissonde, in fact, not going to upset the scorers. 120th place at the minute, and he's still got 700 metres to do. A couple of technical corners towards the end. Wet roads make it so much harder, and Elissonde is not going to take any risks, certainly with the time he's setting at the minute. As you can see, well down on the time. He's going to end up finishing 15 minutes down on the time of the winner here. Big differences.
And you can see why he's really taking it slowly on the downhill, you know, not taking any risk at all. He's definitely not going to fall or slide off the way he's going, and he is, after having a poor time trial, he's had a poor Giro, because I was expecting him to see him, you know, maybe in some of the other, in the stages, the medium mountain stages, where we haven't seen him at all, and he's a long ways down in general classification. 2 years ago, won a great stage in the Tour of Spain, but having trouble to repeat that sort of level, that performance since.
Kreuziger on the countdown, 4th in the overall standings. Good time trialist on his day. Czech having problems in the courtroom outside of cycling at the minute, but whilst that's all resolved, he's riding the Giro, and he's looking to beat the time set by the man on the left-hand side, who just realised that the camera's on him. He's on the big winner's throne at the minute, Vasil Kirienka. Looking at Richie Porte, his teammate on the top right-hand side. He'll be a little disappointed how he is going. Remember, Porte almost 2 minutes down at the first time check. There is Contador, not in pink today after he lost that pink jersey yesterday. Gets the thumbs up from a few fans. Ready, seems to be moving that left arm fine as well. Looks recovered. Is he going to really change his position, or has he been bluffing all week? We shall see. Porte on the left-hand side. The man on the right is Rigoberto Urán. Ran the national time trial of champion of Colombia, won that jersey all the way back in January at the Nationals. He's done most of his racing in Colombia this year. He's only hopped back across to Europe for a few races. His European address has also changed. He's living in Monaco now, after previously being resident in Pamplona in Spain and over in Italy as well for a while. Well, we saw Sky and Kirienka a moment ago. Here is Svitsov, who's just finished as well for the same team.
And I finish with Konstantin Siutsiu. Konstantin, how is this time trial?
Oh, actually, I like it.
Yeah.
Straightforward, not really technical, long. Yeah, just little bit bad condition and little bit, like for me, I have some problem with my ribs, but I think I do it nice pace. But it's, yeah, for some people I think it's tough. Yeah. It's really long, like for the head, but I like it.
And how was Richie this morning?
I'm actually motivated, look forward. Yeah, it's his life, it's cycling. You know, it's every day, it's possible, everything.
He seems to lose.
He demonstrated he is strong in the climb, he have good team, just bad luck.
Okay, but he seems to lose many times in the first part. Is it something you think it's normal? Or?
Yeah, but it is losing situation. It's like, it's with Alberto have same. It's just cycling. It's like everything is possible. You know, it's 21-day race. If it's somebody crash in the front of you, what do you do? Yeah, there's nothing.
And there is 1 week to go now. Thank you.
Well, Svitsov very philosophical about everything there. Said he actually liked the course. Certainly for him, he enjoyed it. He was top 10 when he came across the line. Now then, man to watch, Ildiko. Disappointing today. We thought that he may have a chance of being up there. Of course, he shone in the Tour de Romandie time trial. A lot shorter though, 20 kilometers long. Very difficult course in similar conditions to this. We saw Ďakarín give his all for a stage win the other day, and well, for him to shine in a time trial at a Grand Tour, Sean, I think we're going to have to wait for another day.
Yes, well, he was really impressive. You know, when he won the stage in Imola. When he rode away 20 plus kilometers in the finish and the group was chasing, he just was pulling time out all the way. So I was expecting him maybe to have a go on this one, but disappointing performance.
Ďakarín crossing in 32nd place, 4 minutes 54 down as Richie Porte is on the uphill section. First uphill section does count towards the King of the Mountains competition. There'll be 3 points given out for the man who's quickest up there. It's a fourth category climb, the San Pietro de Feletto. Then we go through Col di San Martino. And that takes us all the way up to San Pietro Barbozza with a little bit of a descent towards the end. Sylvain Chavanel was saying that everybody had to be careful and make the difference before then, as we see Basque fans on the climb. Made the journey over. There he is. The first ever Sardinian rider to wear pink at the Giro d'Italia. Is it going to give him something extra, Sean?
Well, someone can give extra, others, the weight of the race leader jersey can be a real problem. And for Aru, that is the big question today. 24 years of age, of course, so he is, you know, he's coming into that time where he's, you know, getting to the prime of his career, and it'll be interesting to see. I'm really looking forward to see what kind of performance he can put in here today.
So much work for Aru over the winter. Alberto Contador Velasco as well will work on this sort of thing. He has the experience. Certainly not as strong in the time trial in recent years as he was 4 or 5 years ago, but he's ready to go. He knows it's a big day. He's asking for some divine intervention. He will not ride in pink today. He will not have those final time splits. He's going to go off in penultimate position. Alberto Contador, who came to have a look at this course, he wasn't that worried about it when he saw it. He said, it's not as hard as I thought, and he thought that the climbs were going to be that much more harder. They're small climbs, he says, but of course it's all about trying to keep the rhythm for those 60 kilometers. Doubts about his position, we'll soon find those out. Even today in the newspapers, mechanics saying we've had to move the handlebars up 1 or 2, 3 centimeters even. He could lose 2 seconds by kilometer. I'm not sure that's going to happen. Here's Alberto Contador looking to take back the pink jersey. He is off 59.2 kilometers of suffering, and we'll see how it all adds up in an hour and a quarter's time. Lots of support for Contador in these parts still. He loves coming to Italy. In fact, television seemed to ask him how much he enjoys Italy. Every single day he races here. Always polite, always answers properly to them. And they certainly love him in this part of the world now as well. Contador is off then. The only man to hit the start ramp is the leader, Fabio Aru. This is the man who many were tipping for stage win and perhaps a spell in the pink jersey before today, certainly before yesterday. Richie Porte, though, has already lost quite a bit of time and he will be nowhere near that. Let's go and speak to someone who's finished, Fabio Fellini of Trek Factory Racing.
Yes, today was a test for me, because in my life never I do a time trial with 60 kilometer in time trial. I think it was a good performance. Sure, important is at the final, but for now the third time I think is good. Was a little dangerous with the rain. Some corner was very dangerous, but at the final I'm here, I don't crash, and the feeling was okay. We will see.
After 2 weeks of Giro, it's very hard to do 60 kilometers.
Yes, it's hard, but it's also for all, and it's hard for me, but it's hard for all, because all the rider is for all the rider is the second week, and all the rider do a 60 kilometer, and is this the cycling?
Exactly, and we can see here it's determinazione.
Yes, these are my three important words for my life: serenità, consapevolezza, determinazione.
Bravo, grazie.
Plenty of determination there, plenty of determination here. And just so the people at home get an idea of what today is about, this is probably the hardest thing that many guys out here have done on a bicycle. 60 kilometers of suffering, you have the conditions as well. You can have good time trialists, but keeping it up for an hour and a quarter, an hour and 20 minutes, this is very, very difficult.
Yes, very difficult, and as we heard from Feline, everybody has been in this race now almost for 2 weeks, very aggressive racing, and it's all about recovery. Some guys can recover very well, other guys a little bit less, and that is a very important thing. And 60 kilometres, of course, for a lot here today, they have never done 60 kilometres in the race, so, and you have to be able to keep it going. It's okay doing first 20 k's, but you have to continue it all the way for almost 60k.
Fabio Aru, one of the biggest days in his professional career, certainly the biggest day to date. He's dressed in pink, the first Sardinian to lead the Giro d'Italia. He's never ridden a time trial as long as this in his professional career. He's 24 years of age, and he now has an hour and a quarter of effort against the clock. The wind, rain, pain, and all of those little mental demons, they're going to follow him and each and every rider around this course today when they ride alone. The first Sardinian in the history in pink is off, and this is a big part of his Giro d'Italia on the road right now before he even gets to the high mountains. Rigoberto Urán, waiting for some time checks from him, of course. They should be coming in fairly soon. Richie Porte in the meantime at the top of the GPM. So we've just gone through San Pietro del Filetto. Richie Porte's early season form at the minute disappearing. He raced 35 days, pardon me, before the Giro d'Italia. He won more or less everything that was put in front of him. Paris-Nice, a decanter, a fantastic, fantastic win down there, including some strong time trialling. Well, Richie Porte here has lost that.
Paris is easy to win.
Says the man who's won it 7 times next to me.
Anybody can win 7. Can't be too difficult.
We're back with the main contenders after this. Time trial time at this Giro d'Italia. Just one of them this year. Of course, we've got the team time trial at the start as well. In the meantime, though, the long time trial replacing the sort of normal time trial, a mountain time trial we have. It's hard enough as it is the Giro d'Italia. This is how it stands on the day at the minute. We see Fabio Fellini crossing there, but he's not in the top 5. Vasil Kirienka is leading. Pardon me, Fellini is in 3rd place with Grech in 2nd. And there is Kirienka, 23 seconds ahead of Patrick Grech. The leader, putting on a smile for the cameras. Well, here is Fabio Aru Lot of work in the wind tunnel. Looks good in pink for the minute. White overshoes on, blue helmet, bit of a mismatch, bit of a mixture. If he stays in pink, they might have to sort that out for the next few days. So it's the longest Giro time trial since 2009, when Denis Menchov was victorious in Liguria. This is Damiano Caruso at the time check. It looks as though it's not going to be especially good time after 17.6 kilometres. 58th place at 1:57 down. Richie Porte lost similar time there, and we could tell you at the next time check at the top of the climb at San Pietro di Felletto, he has lost even more time. 3 minutes and 23 seconds down on Vasil Kirienka, around halfway through the route. We know that he took a bit of a bang on his knee yesterday in that crash, Sean, but Richie Porte just goes from bad to worse for him.
Yes, well, it's a little bit understandable when you see the bad look he's been having in this race, and you know, it's always difficult to recover. You know, we did say at the open of our programme maybe he could push behind him just for today for the time trial, but again it's a big ask, and I think that is what we're seeing at the moment. He is, you know, just not in the position that Richie Porte is capable of doing in a time trial.
Well, it looks as though we could see, wow, this is interesting, very interesting. If Rigoberto Urán is losing the same sort of time as Richie Porte, then Rigoberto Urán could be in trouble as well.
Well, that's going to be an interesting one. It looked like that Urán was going quite well. We could see, you know, the cadence there was quite good. Surprising that, you know, he is that much down at the moment. So it's is there a change in the wind conditions? I doubt it very much, because you know it's been raining all day. It's not as the rain came in and the wind get up later on. I think the conditions out there are pretty much the same for everybody. But again, as I did say, and as we were mentioning the last number of days, the difficult racing, the very rapid, aggressive racing in this race, you know, some guys are going to have effects from that today.
Leopold Koenig, 2 minutes and 24 down on Kirienka after 35 Ks as well, so another Sky rider losing time. Interesting to see how everybody goes. Have the weather conditions changed sufficiently enough for everybody to be affected? That is the big question here, because if there's only 13 seconds difference between Urán and Porte, then that is a big surprise today.
Well, I think if we look at the top of the standings at the moment in this TT, the provisional standings, the guys who are up there are not the guys who have been racing all the time up front. They have had, you know, difficult days, sure, but they have also been in the slower groups, and that counts a lot. If you're in a group better, you can take it easy, you know, in the last number of kilometres, the last 20 kilometres, the last 30 kilometres. The guys we're seeing coming now, Porte and all of those guys, they have been fighting to stay up there in general classification, and that can have a big effect after almost 2 weeks of racing.
We'll see where Contador is. Contador, who had his mechanic Faustino Munoz say that the bike is like a guitar, and Alberto is the maestro guitarist Paco de Lucia. Beautiful artistic expression of things. How do we think he's getting on, Alberto Contador? Because he's looked good, hasn't he, over the last few days? He's looked confident, he's looked happy. Munoz was saying, well, he could lose 2 seconds a kilometre because he's going to lose some aerodynamic effect because of his positional change. He's got a lot of different time, 2 to 3 centimetres of a raise. Oh, look at this. Confirmation that Urán is nowhere near the top of the timesheet here. 2 minutes and 10 down at the split, and he's slower than Richie Porte. Really interesting to see if that continues through now to the likes of Contador, Aru, and all the rest of the guys up towards the end. We're told as well that there could have been a tailwind early on, and the wind may be changing direction slightly. We said that it was ever so slightly forecast to get a little better this afternoon. That looks to have changed as Luis Leon Sanchez sets a good time. A little faster than Patrick Gretsch. 1:18.04, a good result from the man from Astana. So out there towards the end of the course, the times are still coming in as fairly decent. But of course, that early flat exposed part of the course is where you could see the effect. Yes. In this minute, this man is quids in to take the win.
Yes, it's looking to be a real good time from Kirienka. The question is, has the conditions changed a bit? when we see Luis Leon Sanchez, he puts in a good time, but he's also, you know, an hour ahead at the start of the big favourites here, so, you know, it can change. But Contador now will be the reference. I think if he does a good time here, it tells us that the conditions are much the same. It's just that riders are feeling the effects. The fatigue is starting to hit some riders in the general classification.
Yeah, is this just an Uran and Port thing, or is it going to extend to everybody who has come out a little later on today? We've got to keep our eyes on that. It's still wet, it's still miserable, whatever the wind direction. But of course that is going to affect things so much in terms of time. There is Rigoberto Uran pedalling away. He's done so much work on the time trial as well. Already a superb time trialist, but improving even more throughout the winter. Of course, remember, when he won this time trial last year, Sean said early on, over 42.2 kilometres, he put 2 minutes and 55 seconds into Fabio Aru. Really interesting to see how it's going to go. Ryder Hejsdal. Cars falling behind. You can see it's a good day out for the sponsors too. They can get nice and close to the riders in the cars. Third and final time check on the course for him. 2:23 down on Kirienka. Roman Kreuziger. Times of the big riders from the first intermediate. Van den Broek at 1 minute and 12 from Vasil Kirienka. Bit of wind across the bridge, as you can see. Wind direction supposedly changing, which explains that the likes of Van den Broek maybe have set better times than the likes of Koenig at 1:37, Port at 1:57, Ionis Aguirre at 2 minutes 2, and Rigoberto Uran, one of the big surprises, all the way down at 2 minutes and 10. Keep an eye on it for you as Tanel Kangert's put in a good time. A really good time, in fact, for Astana. The Estonian, not known as a top time trialist, but he's there in 4th place, 1 minute and 17 down on Kirienka, who leads the stage at the moment. Tanel Kangert's just come across the line in 4th place provisionally. Vasil Kirienka of Team Sky still leads this time trial by 12 seconds from Luis Leon Sanchez. Patrick Gretsch down in 3rd. And the Sky man, well, if the wind conditions have changed as dramatically as it's suggested by the times out on course, well, I think he may well be in that seat until the end of the day, Sean.
Well, we could see there on the bridge as we were looking at Kreuziger going through. There was certainly, you know, a side wind coming from the left, but left on the shoulder against head, not totally head on, but into your left shoulder, and that can change a lot. And we must remember, you know, the long distance here. If you have it in the earlier part where it does change, like, it's going to take a lot out of you, and you're going to pay all the way. So the guys out early, Kirienka's time, it looks like that is going to be a very difficult time to beat, with what we're hearing and what the reports that the wind has got up a bit more.
It's funny, isn't it? All these guys can do all the work in the wind tunnel position. Something like a crosswind can mess all that up completely, can't it? Because it just makes how you feel and how you sit on the bike just feel that very much different, doesn't it?
Well, it makes it more difficult, and you know, you're struggling there with, of course, with a tailwind and with a crosswind unfavourable. It makes a big difference.
Well, just to prove that Rigoberto Uran and Richie Port are probably having not great days at the minute, even with the wind change. It looks as though the guys at the back are going to be slower, and that Vasil Kirienka is probably the favourite for the stage win. But Alberto Contador so far looks to be taking 11 seconds out of Fabio Aru and 34 seconds out of Rigoberto Uran. So early advantage, Sean, after just 10 kilometres on the flat with a bit of that crosswind. Early advantage to Alberto Contador.
Yes, it looks like that he is a little bit of an advantage, and of course, you know, it's very little. We can see there 11 seconds for Aru. That is nothing at all at this point, because on the flatter section, that Aru will suffer a bit more, I think, when he gets into the more undulating stuff and the hillier stuff in the end, in the second half. That's where he will probably limit his losses a bit more. So Aru looking quite good at the moment, but as you said, it seems to be that you know, the wind is having effects on the later men starting. But we must remember, all the men in general classification are starting close together. It's advantage, of course. A good time trialist who's a long way down in general, like Kirienka, you have the advantage if you get away and the weather conditions do change.
Steering Kruijswijk looking to try and steal Tanel Kangert's 4th place that we saw set a minute ago. Confirmation, as you were suggesting earlier as well, Sean, that Mick Rogers riding just at his own pace today, not really giving it his all, as Kruijswijk, the Dutchman, been up there on several stages, in the breakaway on a couple of occasions, 2nd place on one stage as well. He's potentially and provisionally 4th here at the moment. 1 minute and 9 down on the top time set by the Belarusian rider Vasil Kirienka of Team Sky. Jürgen van der Broek riding fairly well today. He's one of the guys who went out a little later on. Despite the changing conditions, the worsening wind conditions, he's riding nice and fast. Aru on the left-hand side in the pink. Contador on the right, of course, in the flow yellow today. And it will have been a strange sensation for him yesterday, Sean. The first time he's ever lost a leader's jersey in the Tour. You think that with the constitution that Alberto Contador has, the fact that he always seems to overcome adversity, it's not going to bother him too much, is it?
No, I don't think it will bother him at all. Certainly when the crash occurred yesterday there, he would have been really concerned, because we could see, you know, his bike was broken, he needed a bike, he was looking for a teammate to come along as quickly as possible, and at that point you're really in panic. But when you get in and you hear and you get the time checked what he lost on Aru, I don't think he will be concerned, because it could have been much worse if it happened, you know, a bit further out, a number of kilometres out, and you know there's splits in the peloton. Well, then you could lose a minute and a half, 20-25 kilometres on the finish. But I think he came out of it quite well. Bad luck, but I think he recovered quite well, and what he had lost, he won't be too concerned.
Talking of losses, Mikel Landa, not a good start. This was the man from Astana who was probably expected to plummet down the timesheets more than anybody. He's a top climber, but after 17 kilometres, already 3 minutes down on Vasil Kirienka. Yes, we know the conditions have worsened a lot, but that, by comparison, is a pretty poor effort. Alberto Contador, though, looking good. We saw Richie Porte while Sean was talking there as well. 3 minutes 51 down at the 3rd and final time check. No chance of Porte getting himself back into the hunt for the pink jersey here. Look at Contador. You can talk of the positions, you can talk of the conditions worsening all as much as you want, Sean, but this is a very, very good start to his time trial.
Yes, I think you know, he's the one who you can reference, take the reference from, as we can see here. You know, he's lost a bit of time, but I think the general classification, when the ones who are a little bit ahead of him are the ones who have to come, you know, that's where you're going to have to look at it. And as you mentioned, Landa, I think he was always going to be in difficulty to hold on, but Contador, you know, a very solid time trial for the moment.
Interesting to see where Dario Cataldo is as well. We didn't see him go off, but he's in the top 5 at the minute. If this man has a nightmare, he could end up being the top Astana place man at the end of the day. But he's had a decent start so far, Aru. We'll get his time when we come back. Mikel Landa losing some time as we expected today. Losing a lot of time though. In the meantime, Alberto Contador almost put a minute into Rigoberto Urán at the first time check. Urán having a bad day. Richie Porte not having a great day. Contador and we think Aru have both started well. We're waiting for Aru's first passage of the time check. You can see that his number's been stapled onto the back of his jersey and his skin suit there. No chance of leaving it flapping in the wind. Done so much work on his position. And this is where he's going to be. Well, he's going to be quite a bit down on Alberto Contador. Fabio Aru losing quite a bit of time on Alberto Contador. 1:54 down on the man who set the best time, Vasil Kirienka. Contador at 1:06. We're talking around 50 seconds already after 17 kilometres for Contador on Aru. A really, really good start, and he's on his way back into pink. Aru has to fight here. In the meantime, let's go and hear from Contador's teammate Mick Rogers.
Over the years, you can never relax until you cross the finish line. but it could have been much worse for us. We had a very quick bike change with Matteo Tozzato, and then a couple of us took him to the finish line. So we see ourselves very lucky. Actually, it could have been quite easily a minute 30.
We see that Alberto is in a very, very good position. Is the first of all the GC contenders so far. You expected that for sure.
Well, what we do know is he's tough. You know, you've seen him over the years. He's got a lot of experience, particularly in the last week of Grand Tours. Listen, we had a great dinner last night. Even though we lost the jersey, we were all very positive. We laughed a lot, we smiled, and I think Alberto's relaxed. Obviously, it would have been better if he didn't crash, but that's cycling, that's bike racing, and we see a big week ahead of us that's going to be tough.
Thank you very much, Michael, and keep your smile.
There'll be plenty to smile about if it continues. I made that 48 seconds, Sean Kelly, that Alberto Contador has taken on Fabio Aru in just 17.6 kilometres of racing. A third of the time trial done on the flat. Contador stronger. I think his mechanic was talking rubbish about him losing 2 seconds a kilometre, don't you?
Well, we've been hearing a lot of talk from the mechanic of Tinkoff, Saxo and of Contador. The surprising one, you know, to change his position, unless you have the injury, of course, I could understand there, but otherwise I'm not too sure if there's anything in that at all. But it's not looking that way. The time he's putting in, as you said, just under 50 seconds taking out of Aru in that first intermediate time check. There is time for Aru to make up. He's last man out on the road. He'll be made aware of that. Sometimes the tactic's okay, set out, don't go too hard. A long time to like this for Aru, you know, never experienced before, so maybe he's just in conserving a little bit in the earlier part and then really put it on in the end. If that is a tactic, well then we could see him pulling that back, and of course the second half of the time there will suit Aru a bit better, because the flash section, I think that's where he's going to struggle. But is he in difficulty already? That is the question. We'll have to wait and see in the second part of the time trial.
48 seconds from Contador on Aru. Richie Porte improving ever so slightly there with 15 Ks done. Rigoberto ran at 1:04, but I think we've seen Porte and Uran lose further time a little later on today. Fabio Aru is the man who's got to make things up here. As it stands, Contador would already be back in the pink jersey. You know, we're talking about Faustino Muñoz, the faithful mechanic of Alberto Contador, saying, well, he's changed his position, he's going to lose time, he could lose 2 minutes over the course of 60 kilometres. They were his words in the paper this morning, but he knows how to play the mind game. 79 Grand Tours he's been at, Faustino Muñoz, 37 Vueltas. The first he was working at the age of 14 as a mechanic at the first Vuelta he did. He's done 27 Tours and 15 Giri. He knows how to play the game a little.
Well, he certainly does. He's got the experience. He's got more experience than anybody out there.
Than even Contador himself.
Yes. So, of course, he's maybe playing along. We don't know. That's always, and of course, you know, with Contador as well. Last year, the Tour of France, we heard, you know, he was off the bike for so long, came back to the Giro, wasn't good, and then suddenly he started to ride so well and very, very impressive. To be off the bike for the length he was saying he was, everybody was saying it's not possible. So, of course, you know, there's always a little bit of doubt, and for that, with the Tour of France last year, going into the Vuelta, you know, you're going to doubt that tactical game. And I think some of it could be very much tactical here.
Yeah, off the bike so long between the Tour and the Vuelta, I wasn't sure either. I heard stories of him training in Lugano, and he was seen out there when he was supposedly still only on the home trainer. It was a fantastic feat, nevertheless, as we're looking for Richie Porte to finish here. This, in the meantime, is Contador, riding like a dream today. Time to go and hear what our expert Juan Antonio Fletcher has to say on the goings-on so far today.
With Juan Antonio Fletcher here at the finish line. Juan Antonio, we can see that Alberto Contador is the best of all the GC contenders so far. And we also can see that Richie Porte, Rigoberto Uran lose many times. You know why? What's happened?
Well, first thing, Alberto is showing a better performance than Fabio Aru, especially, but not. I mean, I think we still need to watch more about the race for the final, especially. I think on the climbs, I think Alberto probably is still in. I think it's just pacing himself better and probably waiting for that final part to make an even bigger difference than what he's doing at the moment. Richie and Rigoberto, I don't know. I mean, I think Richie probably didn't recover as we expected, mentally especially, because he had very bad luck for 2 days, and that's something very hard from a bike rider, especially when you're focused on the Grand Tour. And I don't know, he probably didn't feel the legs as he expected. The same with Rigoberto, so they're just trying, but the fact is that they are not up there anymore. I mean, they are doing a time trial that we are not expecting.
And regarding Rigoberto one, he was ill at the start of the Giro. Perhaps he paid all these efforts of his bronchite.
Yeah, and he had a very bad crash in Imola. We never talk anymore about his Imola crash, but we don't know how he is. I mean, we have any update about him. So he's probably, we need to give some room for that. So we need to think that he's not yet as well due to that crash, especially in Imola. He make it back to the bunch, but he's not showing that he's all right. So hopefully he gets a good recovery for the mountains, because he will give a big spectacle for sure.
A big spectacle to be expected from Rigoberto Urán. Well, we'll have to see. We were waiting for it today. Perhaps still sore from that crash, as Juan Antonio Fletcher was saying. Fabio Aru is there. Now, Sean, Fabio Aru has done a lot to try and improve his time trial over the winter. He went to California to work in the specialised wind tunnel in November. It's the first time he'd ever done such specific work. He was working with Paolo Slongo and Maurizio Mazzoleni, who were coaching him. We see Caruso go through the second time check at 3 minutes and 12 down. But back to Aru, he's worked with a physical trainer off the bike as well, Marino Rosti. He's done quite a bit of abdominal, back, core exercises that have helped him build some necessary strength to hold the new TT position better. He's been out on his TT bike at least once, often 2 and 3 times a week. Today, though, it must be demoralising for him to see the differences already being made by Alberto Contador.
Well, I'm not sure if he will be demoralised for the moment, because 48 seconds, if he can hold that until you get to the climbing part of, which is the second part of this time trial. And I was talking this morning, I said, if Aru can limit his losses to Contador 130 down, I think it will be a pretty good time. So that is still possible, because we know Contador, when he is in good shape, you know, he can put in these great time trials. Of course, we were asking the question, Contador in the last 2 years, I think it's 2 years ago in the Tour of France, he had a very disappointing time trial. So we were just wondering, when you get towards the end of your career, when you get a bit older, sometimes your time trial ability drops a bit. And I was asking the question, as a lot of other people were, is Contador, dropping off his time trial? For the moment, it doesn't look like that. He's going to be a good one again today. But Aru, for the moment, I think he's defending quite well. But he will have to up his game a bit to limit that loss. And if he can keep it at 130, I don't think Astana and the people in Astana will be, totally demoralised with that performance, and that is at the moment possible.
And there's a lot of Giro to come yet. This is the first of 3 very, very key days, and we've got other key days next week. We've got Madonna di Campiglio tomorrow, then a rest day, and then that god-awful stage, that huge stage that includes the Mortirolo. And that's before you even get to next weekend and next Saturday. That's going to act as the divine judge, the final judge, the stage to Sestrian.
Well, it's all to play for in this Giro. The final week is where it's going to all happen. And if you're in the position, Aru at the moment, he has 19 seconds ahead of Contador. If he leaves a minute and a half, well then he's a minute and 10, a minute and 15 behind Contador. With what's left in this Tour, if you're really good in the mountains, as we would expect Aru to be, that's possible to make up. And Contador, he's shown the signs that he's getting better, but you just never know. You can be good for 2 or 3 days. Suddenly, for some reason, as the race goes into the final week, you're not feeling as good, and he's the one who shows weakness. You see the cracks there. So if Aru can, as I mentioned, finish at a minute and 30 behind Contador, he'll be in there around a minute 15 down, minute and 20 down. It's all to play for.
We just saw an image. This is Richie Porte, by the way, coming into the final 400 metres. But we just saw a very brief image of Alberto Contador, who looked to be catching Mikel Landa. Mikel Landa set off 3 minutes in front of Alberto Contador. This, in the meantime, is Richie Porte. Not the time he was happening today. Even the likes of Stefano Pirazzi, their time's going past as well. Rutkiewicz is the next time to aim for. Looks as though he'll be slower than Marek Rutkiewicz. Eliva Viviani, his teammate, also done a faster time trial than Richie Porte. That's how it's gone for him today. Cvetkov's time goes past, and it's going to be a time that puts him into 41st place for Richie Porte. 4 minutes and 20 down. That expression shows exactly how this Giro d'Italia has gone for Richie Porte. An absolute nightmare.
Yes, well, it has been a nightmare, and the problem is, it's just been bad luck, and that is bike racing. You get a run of that, and Richie Porte has certainly got a lot of it in this Giro, and difficult to recover. Of course, if it's physically and you're targeted to win the Giro, and then suddenly you're not performing well, it hasn't been the case of Richie Porte. It's just really bad luck has taken him out of the contention.
Alberto Contador hasn't turned up at the Spanish Time Trial Championships for the last few years. Mikel Landa might not bother though, because he's just been overtaken by Contador. Look at the difference of the riders going across the lines here. We saw Uran on his way to losing some time. Aru, very, very careful though. He takes everything. Lots of nerves there, Sean.
Yes, well, when you're a race leader, you're a little bit more concerned, and I'm not surprised that some of the riders here in the wet conditions, they're not comfortable at all, because they're thinking about the past, thinking about yesterday more so. If you have a fall, as we see yesterday, in the matter of a couple of kilometres, you can lose so much.
Leopold Koenig has just crossed the line for Team Sky. Rider from the Czech Republic, pardon me, in 11th position. Alberto Contador. Great atmosphere. It's a Saturday afternoon. It's miserable weather, but I think the Prosecco has been downed in its litres already. Contador really riding on today. He's 1 minute and 4 ahead of Richie Porte. It looks as though Richie Porte's gone faster at this point than Fabio Aru, and that is not good news for the pink jersey. Contador 31.21 after 25 kilometres. We saw Porte finish well down, 4 minutes down. If those differences are going to carry through to the finish, it's not even a limiting your losses for Fabio Aru, is it really?
No, it's not, and it's surprising to see that it's that much down. But yeah, they're the times we're getting. And looking at Aru's time, in the earlier part, it looked like he was hanging in there. But we'll have to see as we go further. This one is looking more difficult for him.
We've seen Alberto Contador putting time into Fabio Aru, and more time as well. Aru at the minute, a second slower than Richie Porte after 25 kilometres. This in the meantime is Giovanni Visconti of Italy. Visconti has gone for the visor and the sunglasses today. It's an unusual combination. Absolutely wet through, maybe a little bit of a fear that some of that rain and water is going to get up under the visor. 50th at 49.5 kilometres. Still another 10 Ks to go. How's the pink jersey getting on? Talk in the paper today that Aru actually had a stomach problem on the day to Imola and the day after. In fact, all this talk of not eating properly was just a bit of a cover-up from the team. That was the rumour going around in the Gazzetta dello Sport this morning. He wasn't sure whether he'd be keeping pink tonight, heading into the unknown for him. He's worked harder than ever on the TT bike during the winter. The numbers we're getting at the moment, as Sean was just saying, looks as though it is pretty clear that he won't be in pink tonight. He said he fell in love with the pink jersey as soon as he started riding on the road in 2009. He came from mountain biking and cyclocross in this small town in Sardinia. Had to make the move across the Tyrrhenian Sea. Spent a lot of time in the north of Italy as Kreuziger comes through 35.1 at 3 and a bit minutes down, 76th. Not a super time for him. All about his leader Contador though. Hey, going back to Aru, he said that he wasn't going to sleep in the jersey last night, as some people do when they take it, but he wanted to leave it on the sofa in the room. But in love with the pink jersey, a beautiful Mediterranean way of describing it, huh?
Well, Alan, their national tour, of course, when you get into bike racing, it would be natural that you think about getting that pink jersey one day in your career. And for Aru yesterday. It was a surprise as much for him as it was for us, because you know everything seemed to be going well for Contador, suddenly being just 3 kilometres from the finish, just a fraction outside it, and everything changes. But today it's really the true race, as they say, against the watch. That it will be interesting now to see how Aru can defend here on this section. He looks to be you know, a good cadence at the moment. Will he be able to continue on that, and you know, from here on in, limit his losses as much as possible against Contador? Although looking at Contador, he looks to be really going strong here, and he seems to be, you know, getting a bit faster maybe than anything, and that is going to be a difficult one for Aru. And as I mentioned, you know, the minute and a half, I don't know will he be able to hold it at that. Looking at things at the moment, it's going to be a big ask for him.
Contador going like an absolute train out there in the minute. He's on the right hand side in the fluorescent yellow, on the left in the pink leaders jersey, Fabio Aru. What did you do with your leaders jerseys, Sean? You didn't sleep in them, did you?
No, I did not sleep in them. But again, you know, when you have it in the room, you hang it there on the chair at the end of the bed, and you know, you just leave it out there where you can look at it. And but I know riders, when they come to teams and that, I remember riders joining a professional team. I remember those some riders came into the teams that I was with, and you know, they're first come together with the team. They get together, they get the official team kit, and I've seen riders sleeping in their racing jersey.
Crazy Sardinian fans on the road for Aru. The first time that a man from the Mediterranean island, that is part of Italy of course, has led the Giro d'Italia. There has been the odd Sardinian cyclist down the year with stage wins and what have you in different races. They've led their own now defunct Giro di Sardegna. Aru won the stage last year in the Giro, made history there, and he's made history as the leader. But I fear for him that it's going to be just for one day for the time being. This man is riding himself into a clear lead in the Giro d'Italia, 1:32 ahead of Port. Oh, and Fabio Aru is much slower than both Port and Oran. This could be a nightmare day for the Sardinia, if those times are to be believed.
Yes, well, it looks like that is the case. He seems to be losing, you know, more and more, and losing it very quickly. That is a huge loss at the moment. So Aru definitely, you know, in big trouble here, and not looking good for him at all. He's going to be a long ways off, and chance to challenge really for the overall win in this Giro. Going on those times is going to be a big ask.
Well, it's not just about a day. We've got a week of mountainous racing to come, but Aru has to be in with a shout. He might not even be the best placed rider in his team at the end of today. That's the problem for Aru. Almost 45 minutes on the bike. We just saw as well, by the way, Alberto Contador now 8th overall at the last time check today. Vasil Kirienko, with the climbs that we've got to come, might just be starting to fear for his stage win as well. Here is Andrea Amador in the meantime. We said he'd do a half-decent time today. Looks that way so far. 18th at 2 minutes and 7 down at the final time check. A few of you tweeting in and asking how Cataldo is doing. We're not sure, we don't have time checks. Unfortunately, the host broadcaster not deeming us to provide us with too much information today. Aru struggling here. Alberto Contador riding through the grapevines of the Prosecco region to Valdobbiadene, and riding himself back into the pink jersey. Roman Kreuziger, his teammate, in your picture at the moment. 20 kilometres to go for him. 54.16 on the clock. Trying to keep his position in the top 5 at the minute. Kreuziger has shown decent time trial form in the past in his career. Funny, the last time we actually started from Treviso, which is the home of Pinarello, by the way, the bike manufacturer. I think Pinarello actually wanted to try and get Chris Froome to come and ride this Giro d'Italia. I know the organisers did. They even tried to get Brad Wiggins to come and ride a final time trial in his World Championship jersey here as well, given the fact that Pinarello make the bikes for Sky, but could be one of their men who takes the stage win anyway.
Yes, I think Brad wanted to ride the 10-miler, so he didn't go to the Giro.
Hull instead of Valdobbiadene. Pint of bitter instead of the Prosecco at the end, eh? Kirienka at the minute leading. This is Uran. Not the performance he was looking for. We saw Roman Kreuziger, by the way, the last time a Giro stage started, from Treviso. Kreuziger was the winner. Kreuziger winning in 2012 on stage 19 from Treviso to Alpe di Pamepago. Fabio Aru needs all the encouragement he can get. Do you know what, the first time in all of this Giro so far that the front page of the top sports newspaper, the newspaper that organises this race, Gazzetta dello Sport, was all about cycling. We've had football for 2 weeks. Aru's face plastered all over the front today, an Italian leading the Giro. They were talking about the pride of the renaissance of Italian cycling, with Nibali winning the Giro, then the Tour. This man last year on the podium. If he carries on this time loss, he's going to be well off the podium tonight.
Yes, well, looking on the times, the intermediate time checks, he's going to be a long ways off, and it's going to be a real disappointing one for him. We've heard a lot about, you know, the wind tunnels and you know, all this training on the time trial bike, but if you're not in good shape, well then nothing helps, and that is, you know, the recovery is so important. And in 3-week tours, that's what the big champions have got. Contador, you know, he can recover so well. He seems to recover so quickly after a lot of really difficult racing, and that is the big advantage.
Oh, this time last week, people were writing Contador off, saying that he was on his way home. He said that he never once thought of going home. He may have lost a leader's jersey for the first time in his career, but it looks as though, unless something bizarre happens towards the end, he is about to win it back. Fabio Aru coming up to the top of the categorised climb. Looks slower than Nick van der Leke, Marcus Berghardt, Branislav Samilov. Aru needs to improve. 45th there, 3 minutes down on the time of Vasil Kirienka. And the way that Contador was going, he's around 2 minutes to 3 minutes down on Alberto Contador. Contador was getting up there. Jürgen van der Broek's put in a good time, a really good time. Well into the final couple of 100 metres. Van der Broek trying to sprint to the line, and he's a man who'll be aiming to try and secure a top 10 at this Giro d'Italia. That would have been his aim before he came to the race, and this is not going to do that aim any harm. Van der Broek for Lotto Soudal, who lost their sprinter overnight, Andre Greipel. He's gone home. 1 minute and 25 down. A very good time from Jürgen van der Broek of Belgium. That's the man who still leads, Vasil Kirienka, in charge on stage 14 of the Giro d'Italia. Welcome back with this man reducing the arrears in the deficit to Alberto Contador. 1 minute and 45 between Contador and Aru. That is much more acceptable than around that 1.5 minutes that you were talking about, Sean.
Yes, well, it's looking better if he can continue on, you know, working the way he's been the last number of kilometres. And as I mentioned in the earlier part, I think the second part of the time trial would be, you know, more suitable to Aru. Maybe he kept a little bit off as well, because you would be concerned if you really go deep in the earlier part, then if you pay in the end, you're going to lose big time. So it's looking that way. Was he holding off a bit, or is just the terrain more suitable to Aru?
Kirienka, Sanchez, Grech, Kruijswijk and Tangut, the top 5 so far on the day. Oh, whilst our British viewers have been away at the break, the gap between these two has been changing. Aru improving on the climb, 1:55 now from Contador to Aru. Really interesting to see what happens here. Has Aru kept something in reserve? Is he just going better on the climbs, full stop? Is Contador running out of gas? All sorts of possibilities. Contador, on this little section we've seen for the last few 100 metres, seems to be gaining the odd second again. but better news for Fabio Aru, who now has 20 kilometres still to go. And we're going through the Prosecco region today, from Treviso to Valdobbiadene. Valdobbiadene, one of the big denomination of origin places for the sparkling wine. Just had a few tweets from a few of you, including Luke McLaughlin, our colleague who does a lot on cycling promotion. Apparently there's a Prosecco crisis in the UK. All the Prosecco makers, might be a crisis that has a PR slant to it, because they just keep telling you to go and buy Prosecco apparently at the minute. They want panic buying to ensue, and unfortunately the sun's not out, so it's not the best sales pitch for it today. Well, being told by a producer that it's 1:45 between Contador and Aru, the gap at the minute. Spectator's umbrella almost gets head-butted away there by Giovanni Visconti. Got to be a bit slower than Mikel Nieve and Lars Jitting-Back. Visconti, who's defended himself all right over the course of this very, very long time trial. Certainly, perhaps a little bit better than some of us thought. Visconti, interesting to see how it affects his GC, and the GC is going to be a huge shake-up, isn't it, Sean? It's going to be very, very different when we see the top 10 to the one we saw this morning when we came on air.
Yes, well, it is going to be, as we can see, Visconti there, he's going to, you know, be 4 minutes lost there, but again, it's against some riders who are not really in the general classification this time trial, so we have to wait to the end of the day until all the general classifications men come in. But Landa is a one who is losing a lot of time, so there's definitely going to be a reshuffle there in that top 10 in general.
Time to see how it all affects everything. Contador 1:45 ahead of Aru, 1:55 ahead of Uran, 2:08 ahead of Richie Porte. Uran and Porte expected in that list of four to be towards the top. Instead, they're at the bottom. They've both had crashes, they've both had problems. Contador looks well recovered from his, and he is the big favourite on the road at the minute. This is Uran approaching Valdobbiadene at the moment. Not the result that he wanted today. This was his big, big chance to ride himself back into contention for the Maglia Rosa. Knowing Uran, Sean, he will put up a fight this week in the mountains. I'm sure there is a good day coming from him sometime.
Yes, well, definitely, if he's recovered from, you know, this time trial today, and that's the question as well. You know, Uran, I think maybe fatigue as well. He has had a crash, of course. Is he, you know, carrying some of that injury as well? There's a lot of things there you have to ask the question about. But when you look at the general classification men, you know, we can see Aru, Rigoberto Uran, 1:45, 1:55, Richie Porte, 2 minutes and something down there. So the general classification men outside of Contador, they're all very close there in that time at the moment, but still we have quite a bit to get to the finish. And the question now is our pink jersey out on the road, Fabio Aru, can he continue on walking into that advantage that Contador have pulled out and you know, minimise that gap?
Here is Contador. Talked about denomination of origin before. This is a GC man denomination of origin. He'd get the stamp, wouldn't he? The top man in this discipline. You'd have to say the top stage racer now in the last 15 to 20 years, wouldn't you, Sean? Certainly of those who've been allowed to keep their results anyway.
Yes, well, he's, you know, he's a complete bike rider. He can, you know, do time trials. He can ride the mountain stages. That's where he's really strong, and of course in the flat as well. You know, he can defend very, very well, and that's what you've got to have got all of those disciplines, and you know that's what wins big tours, and that's the reason Contador is so, you know, dominant in the big tours. I suppose the interesting one is, you know, Aru, he is 24 at the moment. He still have a lot of time for improvement. When Contador won his first tour, he was 24. So I think Aru, you know, if he continues improving as he has been the last year, 2 years, well then it's possible that he could win a big 3-week tour before the end of his career.
Roman Kreuziger, the third and final intermediate time check. 4 minutes down on the time set by Vasil Kirienka. Back with the Maglia Rosa. I think he will be back in white tomorrow. 1:56, so he's lost another 10 seconds. Better defence in the second half of this time trial though from Aru. And certainly for the good of the race over the next few days. I think most neutrals out there will want Aru and Contador to be as close as possible, won't they? But is there a real rival to Contador out there? We'll find that over the next few days. Caruso riding well enough for BMC. Top 10 will be his aim. Mountains to come, which is his terrain as well. He's climbed with the best on most days so far. 5Ks to go in the meantime for Rigoberto Urán. 10 kilometers further behind is this man, the last man out on the road. Again, all this standing water, just has to take his time. No shortage of encouragement though. Aru, who had the stomach problems the other day, was it that or was it the fact that he didn't eat enough? Lots of people disagreeing on that at the minute. What you can't disagree on is that Alberto Contador, of all the GC guys out here, is proving that he is the best today. Caruso in the meantime rides between the vines of the Prosecco. Valdobbiadene actually belonging to an association of wine towns in Italy, the Città del Vino. Now look at this, Contador at every single time check, Sean, has been getting faster and faster and closer to the top.
Yes, well, he is easing into the advantage of the earlier starters. The question is, you know, how much more can he take back here? As we see,
should this man be worried?
Well, I think you always would be worried with a rider like Contador, but I feel that he should be able to hold on. You know, Contador, he will be made aware of the advantage, but again, when you're really going well and you know you have a good advantage over the other general classification men, which Contador will be made quite aware of that, you still keep on working. When you're feeling good, you just keep on riding all the way. And looking at Contador here at the moment, it doesn't look that he's slowing or tiring at all.
Back with Fabio Aru, an hour into his ride. How does he keep going? Where does your mind wander, Sean, at these moments?
Well, I think Aru will be made aware of, he's a little bit down on Contador, but he mightn't be getting the exact picture from the director sportive. That is always the case. When it's not a total disaster, which is far from it here for Aru, and I think, the team director will be encouraging him. He will be saying, yes, you're a bit down on Contador, 45 seconds, something like that, and that of course will give a lot of courage to Aru, because if he can do that, if he knows he's around the minute down, well, he will really go deep. And advantage when you're last man on the road, you're in the pink jersey, it's amazing how much strength you can pull out of somewhere.
I wonder if he's getting the complete picture or not. Were you ever lied to?
Yes, a lot of time. When you're doing a pretty good time, and that's what you have to look at here. I think Aru is he's defending quite well, and his team director will be giving the times that Aru maybe would be expecting, that they would have talked about at dinner last night or before he started out in the bus this morning in the time trial. So you relay that to your rider, and he can do that because it's not too much far off of that.
Caruso at the minute inside the top 20, probably just going to fall out of that once he gets towards the arrival line. There's that nasty final right-hander to negotiate. Hands on the brake quickly off them as he's out in the saddle once again. The Italian riding for BMC Racing. Also signed De Marchi, another very talented Italian climber. Looks as though he's going to go and race the Tour de France again this year in July. For the minute, it is Caruso who's going to come in. A couple of minutes down, I think. Interesting to see where he's sorted out as far as the general classification is concerned as well today. If he does slip outside the top 10, then he certainly has time over the next few days in the mountains to try and make it up again. Slower than Malacarne, the local boy. Just beats his teammate Sylvain Dillier. 30th, 3:17 down off the time of the leader at the moment, Vasil Kirienka. And that's the church of San Martino saying hello to the Giro. Kirienka leads stage 14 by 12 seconds from Luis Leon Sanchez. Third, Patrick Grech. Fabio Felline up there as well. This is the man who started in the lead. Looked to be a disaster for him in the opening kilometres. Has recovered somewhat. Again, as long as he doesn't really lose too much more time, it's not Giro over just yet for Fabio Aru. In terms of winning the pink jersey, it probably is for this man, Rigoberto Urán. On that descent now towards the final right-hand turn we saw a minute ago, taken by Caruso. 1K to go. And there the time's ticking by. Urán would have started today thinking that he had a chance to even take the Maglia Rosa, depending on what happened. Just over 2 minutes down at the start of the day from Fabio Aru. Interesting to see how it all adds up in the next bit of time. Andrea Amador has crossed the line with a better time than Rigoberto Urán. Looks as though Ryder Hejsdal's going to go quicker than Urán, as is Ioannis Aguirre. And of course there was a difference in the conditions, but the likes of Amador, Aguirre, even Hejsdal went out at fairly similar times to Urán. Just illustrates how much those injuries and how much the poor form, even the bit of bronchitis, has been affecting Urán, Sean.
Yes, well, he's not in the place where we were expecting him, and a lot of people, were talking him up for this time trial. Looking at last year's time trial, he is a real good time trialist. He can, you can depend on him. He's a pretty solid one, but today's performance is going to be disappointing.
Well, a man who wanted to win this stage is going to end up outside the top 20 on the day. Rigoberto Urán, it is just not his Giro. He has the fans there waving the flag, but the Colombian national champion unable to perform to his ability on the day. 2:45 down on what increasingly looks like it could well be the winning time. Kirienka leads the stage. Valdobbiadene loves the Giro. Certainly does, with 2 stage finishes in the last 6 years. This is Fabio Aru. How's he going to compare to those times? Looks as though he may well be losing the odd second again. Final time check on the road, 2:59 down on Kirienka. 33rd place at just under 50 kilometres in. This is Contador in the meantime. Out onto the pedals once more. In fact, in his recon he was talking about that there weren't many options to get out on the pedals here. He said most of the time trial is going to be done seated. Yeah, but he did his recon, he only got out and stood up a couple of times. Goes under that sign that says, Aru, don't give up. Contador certainly hasn't given up. Since his crash last week, he's got better bit by bit every day. And here, he's putting in an exhibition on the time trial bike. Listen to that crowd. Doesn't matter who it is, they just love watching cycling. Here are the differences then. Urán going quicker than Aru. 2:09 down to Urán, and Aru, Sean, he's lost another 30 seconds in the last few kilometres.
Yes, well, the time is changing a lot, and 2:14 is starting to go out, and yes, it's getting to be a real interesting one. Advantage big time to Contador at the moment, and it looks like Aru is, really just digging in, trying to limit the losses, and as we're seeing, it's going to be that at least now, because I don't think the way Contador is looking here, like he's charging the hill here, way out of the saddle. You can see there that there's still a lot of fight left in Contador, where with Aru it's becoming more of a struggle.
Nothing wrong with that shoulder now. He's swaying that thing from side to side as if there's no tomorrow. Riding brilliantly here, Contador. Again, sits down, storms away. Well, Aru will be a little bit disappointed now, certainly that Uran's not had a good day and he's slower than the Colombian. This is one to watch. This is a time to watch, because Dario Cataldo, another man who hasn't put in the top performance like we might expect. A lot of things taking their toll today. The change in wind direction, the heavy, intense racing over the first 13 days. Cataldo could still end up being the fastest Astana man at the end of the day. We're going to have to see here. Final corner to the right. But I think Cataldo, by his own big standards and very high standards, will be a little disappointed with this today.
Yes, I think so. We haven't seen him at all, of course. There's a few riders out there we haven't seen on our screens at all. Landa we did see, because he was taken, passed out by Contador. It looked like he was, in a different event altogether. But Cataldo, for the moment, it doesn't look that he's going to bring the time they were expecting, because he can put in some real fast times, and he has done that.
Well, Cataldo riding this event for Sky in the last couple of years. Here he is in Astana colours. And he's going to come in 36th position on the day at the minute. 3:34 down on his former teammate Vasil Kirienka, who leads this stage 14. Back with Fabio Aru. Can he find something extra? 2:17 now from Contador to Aru. Dangerous spot in the course as well, Sean, now, because we're still going uphill, we're still undulating towards the finish, and we're at a part of this time trial that he's never been in before. This is at the end of the long distance.
Yes, and when you're really getting tired in the end, and he's going to be on the limit for quite a while now, then your reactions on the downhill and that's where you have to be really careful. One little bit of mistake and you have to correct it, line into a corner, for example. In the conditions we've got today, you could slide out very easy, and that's where you have to be very careful, because as they say in bike terms, he's really digging in deep here, and even your vision starts to go in the end. You're getting so tired at the end of this, well over an hour of time trialing at pretty close to your maximum. It's very, very difficult times, and dangerous times as well, because when you're suffering, when you're good like Contador, which he looks like he is, then you're much more, your reflexes are much more greater, you're ready for, your concentration is really good. But when you're really suffering the end and you have to go this deep, that's where you have to be a little bit careful.
Yeah, Contador looking much more lucid than Fabio Aru at the moment. The question is as well, has Aru managed to get the gels down himself? Has he eaten properly? He will be hoping he has, because this is where he'll pay for it in this part of the course now. 2:20. It stays still for the minute. He won't want those slaps on the back, though. As we saw last year on Monte Zoncolan, Sean, it can really interfere with your rhythm.
Yes, well, it does affect you, but again, you try and just block that out of your mind, and you just, you focus on the road out in front. And as you can see here, when you're riding through, the funnel of spectators, you're hoping that nobody will, step out or stay out for too long. As we can see with Aru here, they're just stepping back at the last moment, and you're on the limit, and you're giving it your 100%. You just hope that they will step back at the last moment.
And you're sort of riding on memory as well, because if the guys are there in front of you over the road, you don't know whether you're going left, right, or where the heck you are on the course.
Well, that is just very confusing, because you can see here, when you're really in, the 3 or 4 deep each side of the road, and they're giving you so little space. Sometimes you're not sure which way the road is turning, but on the uphill, of course, you're pretty safe, but still it's worrying times. But you try and just block that out of your mind and get on, give it your 100%, and continue on working at it.
There is Fabio Aru. Trying to keep that barrier on the right hand side in view, then he knows exactly where he's going. Police motorbike helping a little further up. But of course that's only allowed to be at a certain distance for obvious reasons. Back with Contador, 2:25 now on Aru, and the gap continues to grow. This in the meantime looks to be Kreuziger. An hour 21 minutes 44 seconds, 41st place, 3:52 down, and we know that Kreuziger's capable of better than that. You saw that banner there, straordinario. Straordinario is extraordinary in Italian. A bit of a play on words with his name. It's in the headline used already in the Gazzetta dello Sport this week. Aru desperately trying to save the damage now. Started the day in pink, it's going to be a dramatically different look, the general classification. And he's all over the road now. Exactly what you were saying, Sean, the control, the reflexes, the vision even as well.
Yes, we can see there on his gear change, you know, he just went a little bit wide out to the left, didn't get the gear change as smooth as well, and that is because of, you know, tiredness. When you want to change the gear, even that, it becomes a difficult one when you're really getting to the end of your energies. All of those things take that little bit longer, and that means losing just a fraction of a second here and there, and it all adds up at the end of the TT.
Well, this is a man who spent time at the top of a volcano for 3 weeks, riding more climb than we were going to see in the whole of this Giro d'Italia. Interesting to see if Kirienka's time is going to stand here. Contador approaching the finish line. He is going to be so close to the time set by Kirienka. 30 seconds he's got to get across the line in 450 meters. It's a big one, that final turn to take, and Contador is close to challenging for the stage victory. Kirienka with 1 hour, 17 minutes and 52 seconds. Alberto Contador is giving it his all. He knows that the stage victory is in sight. 250 meters to go. I think he's just about going to miss out, but this nevertheless is going to be a monstrous ride from Alberto Contador, and one that's going to put him in pole position to take the win overall on the Giro d'Italia. Contador is going to finish second to the line in the end. It is a huge ride. Contador to come across the line. He will there take third place, in fact, just behind his compatriot Sanchez. 1 hour, 18 minutes, 6 seconds, and just 14 down on Vasil Kirienka. That is a monstrous ride by Alberto Contador, and one that sees him move straight back into the pink jersey. So Kirienka is going to win the stage. 12 seconds ahead of Sanchez. Contador in third with Gretchen Kruijswijk. Contador knocking all of the other GC guys out of the park. Damage limitation time now, Sean, for Fabio Aru, but Alberto Contador has to be praised for that wonderful ride.
Yes, well, that was a monstrous performance. You know, the Contador of the past, his great time trials, I think that is one to go in there as well to match that.
Mikel Landa next across the line. Bit of a recovery from him in the climbing section. And in the end, considering how bad it was early on for him on the flat, that's a bit of a recovery. 4 minutes 14 down, but again another dramatic shift in general classification placing for him. Beastly stuff from Contador. How hard is Aru got to fight here to limit the losses? Is he still going to be with a realistic chance, Sean, of fighting for this Giro d'Italia? We know that anything can happen, and there's many a mountain to come, but every second is going to count now.
Yes, well, it's growing out to, we did see there, his time out of the road, 2 minutes and a half, I reckon, at the moment. It should be in or about that. 19 seconds on advantage he had, of course, so it's going to be over the 2 minutes, all going well if he can continue on, you know, limit the losses as he has been over the last number of kilometres. 2 minutes, which was to come in this Giro, I would say he's still in there with a great chance of, you know, fighting for the top place on podium.
Fabio Aru trying to stay in the hunt for the pink jersey that he's going to have to take off and give to Alberto Contador at the end of the day. 2:39 behind. Can he find something else? So much work in the wind tunnel in California. The wind blowing from different directions today, the climbs, the length of the TT, so many things to factor in, and of course, what's gone simply in this Giro before. It has been a crazy start that I think when everybody turned up 2 weeks ago, Sean, nobody could have ever imagined the stress and the intense nature of every single stage of this Giro.
Certainly not. I think anybody would look at the route race manual, and you look at, you know, the first week of racing, there was a lot of days in there where you would say they'll allow a break out there and it will be a pretty easy day, a sort of, you know, a transition day for a lot of riders, but that's never been the case. The breakaways have been going so fast out front. The peloton, you know, have to ride very fast behind, and they have been never an easy day. We did see yesterday's stage, which everybody would have bet big money on that you would have an easy day, good weather conditions, but we haven't had any of that.
Yesterday, in fact, was the second fastest stage in Giro d'Italia history. Consider it was wet, consider it were horrible conditions, we had a bit of a headwind for a lot of the day. That's an incredible statistic.
It's a crazy race. It's been just a crazy one. This year's Giro, it has, you know, expectations that have just went way out past that.
And we've so much more to come. A lot of people will be saying, well, Contador's going to walk it now, mountains to come. You just never know. 2 minutes and 45. Aru trails Contador. On the general classification, we're going to be looking at around 2.5 minutes. That is, if things don't get worse. Great to see so many Czech fans on the side of the road today. I think I've seen more Czech flags than Italian flags today. Brilliant. This is Koenig and Kreuziger well supported as we see Kirienko on the right-hand side. He's going to be the stage winner, the Belarusian. The stage that was dedicated to Pinarello. Sky will get the win, the sponsors will get the win. Of course, this stage started just across from the Pinarello bike shop. 1k to go then for Fabio Aru. 11th place ticks by him, slower than Chavanel and Koenig. Steph Clement as well. Andre Amador, what a time from him. He said he'd be very, very good today. Turns out that that was the case. He could be riding himself onto the podium at the minute, Andre Amador. Big task for the Costa Rican to hold on in the mountains. Aru then. Just got to keep his head in this final corner, Sean, because he might be panicking a little.
Yes, well, I think fatigue more than panic at the moment, and you know, he just has to be careful. As we can see here, he has been very careful, very cautious on all the corners, much more than Contador, I reckon. He didn't seem to have the same speed going in through the corners, but you know, getting around this one now, and it's just get to the line as quickly as possible.
Get to the line and begin the recovery, because Madonna di Campiglio tomorrow. Look at that. That's an effort face if ever you saw one from Fabio Aru. Time to try and limit the damage, limit the losses. Contador has moved back into pink on the day. Kirienko has won the stage from Luis Leon Sanchez and Contador in third place. Uran's had a nightmare. Port has gone off the charts, but it's Fabio Aru trying to defend the pink, failing on the day, and he's got to do his sums to see what he has to do to get it back in the final week of the Giro d'Italia. Stage 14 going to end in disappointment for Fabio Aru. It's a combative ride nonetheless, but 3 minutes and 1 second from the winner. We're talking of around a 2.5 minute deficit on general classification to Alberto Contador. Aru did his best despite all the work in the wind tunnel. It is not his day, and it's back to the drawing board for Fabio Aru as we go into the final week of the Giro. There's the stage winner, Vasil Kirienko. Sean, great ride from him.
Yes, well, a performance that Kirienko is capable of doing. The conditions we did talk about changed a little bit, but still take nothing from the victory. Kirienko, I suppose the advantage may be that he hasn't been as battling up front as much as the other ones, but chapeau, a brilliant performance.
Kirienko wins the time trial by 12 seconds from Luis Leon Sanchez. Alberto Contador in third at 14 seconds. Patrick Gretsch with a top ride as well from Agio de Sala Mondial very, very early on. He's a specialist, of course, at 23 seconds. Kreiswijk up in the top 5 on a stage yet again at 1 minute and 9. That's going to improve his classification overall by no end as well. I think by the time we get the general classification here, there's going to be raised eyebrows no matter who you're looking for. Alberto Contador leads the Giro d'Italia by 2 minutes and 28 from Fabio Aru. Andre Amador has ridden himself onto the podium at the minute at 3 minutes and 36. Rigoberto ran fourth despite his bad day. He's at 4 minutes and 14 seconds. Jürgen van den Broek is now inside the top 5. The new leader, the new Maglia Rosa, is Alberto Contador. Contador finishing third on the day. Very, very close, but he bets back the pink jersey. In the meantime, it is Vasil Kirienka who wins yet another stage of the Giro d'Italia. Won in 2008, 2011. Here he wins in 2015 as well. And it's his first win since that wonderful Peña Cabarga stage on the Vuelta a España, when he just seemed to ride forever in the front. Sanchez in second place, a good ride from him. The winner, Vasil Kirienka. And we're off to go and get the reaction from Juan Antonio Fletcher and Ashley House.
In association with the Israel Ministry of Tourism.
Injury, what injury? Alberto Contador is back in pink as Patrick Gretsch finishes in the top 5 on a very rainy, miserable time trial. A hard day on the bike. Contador, the big winner, the stage winner, Vasil Kirienka. Fabio Aru now at 2.5 minutes. He remains second. Astana still with one body in the top 5. Man in third is André Amador, another of the big surprises of the day. We knew it was going to be a good day for him. A very good day, though, for Vasil Kirienka, the stage winner.
A spectacular time trial. Vasil Kirienka.
Stage 14 of the 98th edition of the Giro d'Italia, and the Belarusian Vasily Kirienka has won the stage. But more than that, something that Juan Antonio Fletcher has been talking about all the way through this Grand Tour is when are the GC contenders going to put their cards on the table. The whole pack has been shuffled today. Juan Antonio, an amazing ride from Vasily Kirienka, of course, but a superfluous ride from Alberto Contador.
Yeah, Alberto, fantastic. He almost won the stage despite like riding in different weather conditions. He had to ride with a cross headwind, especially in the first part, and he was the best guy out from the GC. As we say in the previous show, the gaps are now way bigger than they were until today.
They are indeed. Let's see those gaps now with today's general classification after the stage.
Alberto Contador in the lead by 2 minutes and 28 seconds. André Amador in third place. Koenig in the top 10, Kreuziger down to 9th. Richie Porte with knee problems and a nightmare on the bike today, well out of it.
So, big winner then, Alberto Contador. We'll talk about what that means for the GC and whether the Giro is over already, which of course we can't say. But who were the big losers today? Some of the names we expected to do well.
Well, I would say big losers, first of all, Fabio Aru. He lost probably more time than he was expecting. And of course, Richie Porte. Richie, today I think was the day for him on saying, well, should I carry on this race or just, I don't know, save the legs or see what happens. But I would say first of all, Fabio Aru, because he lost his pink jersey, and the gap now with Alberto is way bigger than probably what he expected.
It is indeed. The gap now 2 minutes and 28 seconds between Aru and Contador at the top. Juan Antonio mentioned Richie Porte. Let's hear now from his teammate, the winner of today's stage, Vasily Kirienka.
At the finish when you saw Contador so close?
Un'attesa lunga e difficile, un poco nervosa. Aspettavo l'arrivo di Alberto Contador.
I was waiting for the Maglia Rosa and the arrival of Alberto Contador.
Una buona giornata, ha avuto
it was a nice day though. I was lucky.
Una giornata così con pioggia non è molto bella,
it just seemed like one of those days where it was raining and it wasn't going to go well, but I was lucky in the end.
Team Sky tonight, you have 2 stage wins, but there's been some problems for Richie.
Veramente non siamo tanto fortunati in questo
Giro. Of course, we're not very lucky in this Giro with Richie.
Nelle giornate sembrava più facile.
Of course, when we looked at the profile, the day seemed easier, but we've had a harder day on those easy days. But of course, we've achieved a couple of results. It seems that it's a bit difficult for the overall now. But of course, in the next few days, we'll all be there and we're going to try and fight for wins.
Spectacular time trial. Vasil Kirienka.
So he was today's stage winner, Vasily Kirienka. We shouldn't really be surprised. He finished 4th in the World Championship time trial this year. Were you surprised by how well he rode today?
No, absolutely no, and especially we have to think that probably he was the key guy today from Sky. He was probably the guy they were looking like, especially on making all these intermediate times, so reference for Richie Porte afterwards, and he settled that good, those intermediate, and he even win the stage.
He did win the stage. Let's see him now on the podium.
Si aggiudica la 14ª tappa del Giro d'Italia. Un portacolori del Team Sky, Vasil Kirienka.
Vasil Kirienka, who's made Italy his Mediterranean home for training purposes. Italian, the language he's always spoken, the teams that he's ridden for. When he was down at Movistar, he was conversing with the rest of the team in Italian. It seems the same happens in Sky from that interview there. Kirienka loves the Giro, loves Italy, and he's taken his 3rd Giro stage win. First one in 2008 at Montepora. He won Sestria when he dedicated the win to the late Xavi Tonda just a few days after his death when he was a Movistar rider. He's now a Sky rider, and in Prosecco town, he's the man who gets to crack the cork. And it is a special one for Vasil Kirienka. And that is the 9th win of his professional career.
Well, all the scenery you can see around us is the region of Prosecco, and understandably Vasil Kirienka very happy as he's praised the Prosecco for the stage win. Let's go back though to Alberto Contador. He crashed and dislocated his shoulder in week 1. He crashed yesterday and lost time. Poor Alberto, I mean, it was so difficult for him, and yet today, my goodness me, even with that new position with the wider handlebars, he's proven today, yet again.
Yeah, he's proven, but he's been proving all the way through this Giro d'Italia already. He's been proving that he's quite strong. Remember, this week he's probably from the out of the GC the strongest he's been so far. We've seen him the attack day of Imola State. We've seen him the other way also coming onto Monteberico that he was stronger. So was not a surprise at all. Was just the doubt about how was he gonna perform with that new position. But apparently, if we look at also the time he was putting on the other riders, that I don't think that it really affected him riding a slightly different position, but he's a specialist. We have to remember Alberto Contador's first ever professional victory was in a time trial. So he's a climber and a time trial. Even when he was an amateur rider, I mean, before becoming professional, he was excelling by time trialing. And then, yeah, of course, because of his body, he's light guy and climber engine, he's also a good climber, but he is a time trial specialist, especially in Grand Tours.
A time trial specialist, a Grand Tour specialist, of course, as well. And something that you've been talking about, Juan Antonio's been talking about again and again, that we mustn't forget when we talk about the other GC contenders, is that Alberto Contador is just a different rider entirely.
Yeah, he's someone, a different class, someone who grew up overcoming adversities all the time, and that's what many champions define, especially for Grand Tours, because Grand Tours is being there day after day after day for 3 weeks.
Yes, indeed. Well, he's got the pink jersey back again today, so let's go and see his podium right now.
Contador is back. Only 1 day out of it. Luca Țaia back again for a second day, the president of the Venetian region. And Contador leads. First time he lost a Grand Tour jersey. Gets it back just 24 hours later.
il simbolo del primato, torna a vestire la maglia rosa. L'ha fatto con grande...
Anybody who didn't tune in yesterday would have thought he'd had it all along. The gap's increased, 2:28 to Fabio Aru, and look at that from Andrea Amador, a third place for the Costa Rican. All about the pistolero though, who is in big control of the Giro d'Italia.
Grande prova di forza lungo questo tracciato, lungo questi 59 km e 400 metri.
So Alberto Contador receives the Maglia Rossa back again from Fabio Aru, and we're joined by today's stage winner, a third-time Giro d'Italia stage winner. Vasil Kirienko is here.
Kiri, enhorabuena por la victoria. Otra vez confirmas que siempre lo normal tuyo es llevarte una etapa en una grande, en el Giro, en la Vuelta, donde sea.
Muchas gracias. De verdad es una victoria especial para mí porque
it's a really special victory for me.
Bastante bueno en contrarreloj.
Of course, I go really well in the contrarreloj, in the time trial. Of course, I'd not really had a big time trial victory for quite a while, so it's nice to take one. A day like this with all the rain, and it was good for me in the end. Of course, you're always good in the time trial of the World Championships. Of course, the objective this morning, your objective maybe was to try and give it a try and then take the news to Richie. First of all, Dave Brailsford said, we're going to win the time trial. Not who, but we're going to win it. I was having breakfast and Dave Brailsford told me, no, you've got your chances today. I had really good feelings in the last couple of days. Of course, I had decent muscle, warm up today, and everything went okay. Sestriere, you're going back? Are you going to win another? Well, I've got really good memories of Sestriere. I don't know. We're going to try and win something later this week. Thank you, Kiri.
Interesting. He says that Team Sky, they wanted to win the stage. What did you get from what he said there about who they wanted to win it?
Well, first thing, Dave Beef, team principal, he's mentally always winning, always, especially even despite what happened yesterday with Richie. Today they woke up in the morning and said we have to, we're going to win the stage today, no matter with who. And of course, probably they thought already, Dave Brailsford, that Vasil Kirienka could have been a good card to play, and probably Kirienka was having a free roll, especially for going deep on the time trial, because sometimes you are thinking on going, helping someone for the GC, you ask the driver maybe not going that deep. So apparently, and looking after Kirienka's, what he just said, he was having that free roll on going deep on the time trial, winning the stage, and he did, and we have to congratulate him, because that's not easy at all.
No, not easy at all, especially on today's stage. Where now for Team Sky for this Giro d'Italia? Elia Viviani, don't forget, is still in the red points jersey. They have another stage win, but Richie,
he just keeps going back on GC, but I mean, there are not many teams that won already 2 stages in this Giro. They are doing great. I think they still have a great week going on. I can't say now what's going to happen with them on GC. We don't know their strategy, but probably they will change, and they will try to do what they already started today, which is winning stages, and they have the riders to do so. So it's not always about GC. They've been trying it, but you can't beat bad luck sometimes. I mean, Richie had very bad luck so far this week.
Yeah, that's true. Someone else who had bad luck we've talked about before, of course, is Rigoberto Urán. He was one of the favourites today for the time trial. Again, didn't perform in the way we expected.
I wouldn't say that, actually. I wouldn't say that, because if you look at the GC guys, the way they performed today, you just realize that Rigoberto was the best out of them besides Alberto. So if you put them on a list, you see Alberto Contador first and then Rigoberto Urán. So actually he did a great time trial. I mean, at the beginning he didn't look that he was doing that well, but he ended up being the best of the GC contenders. So we just need, I think we're keeping Rigoberto Urán, putting back in GC. He's doing quite good. So why not being on the podium of Milan again.
Absolutely, he has moved up, of course, in the GC from 6th up to 4th, I think. Let's think a little bit more then about the GC. Who else are we looking at? Andrea Amador as well is up there now, but can he carry on?
Well, he been top 10 for some days already. He's been showing great performance so far in this Giro. He's a young rider. He won already a stage in the Giro d'Italia, in his first Giro d'Italia. So he's got big engine. He's a good time trialist. Question mark will be how will he manage to go through the mountains in next week? Because coming week is very demanding for the ride, especially for someone that is probably haven't experienced the fact that had been there on top of the GC for that long in many days in the mountains. So that's something, it will be a test for him, a good test. He still has many years to prove it, but it's a great opportunity for Andrea Amador to prove how far he can go in GC.
What should we expect tomorrow now as we move to 2 stages in the rest day in between, of course, but 2 very, very tough mountain stages?
It will be very tough mountains. I mean, I think tomorrow, considering the weather and considering how hard it's been this week so far, I won't say that we will see a battle in between the GC. I think the guys will just think about the rest day. Tomorrow, in my opinion, will be more a breakaway day. Or maybe a team that really commits for the victory, but not from getting time on GC. From there, rest day, very hard stages, a lot to go, many things can happen. Still Aru, I think he's still there. I mean, Fabio, he's a great climber, the team is still strong, and they will, I think, knowing them and the way they've been riding, they will even do more racing.
They will do indeed. In a moment we're going to see Fabio Aru collecting the white jersey because he has moved from the pink into the white. But for now, Elia Viviani is here. Elia entra. Elia is still in the red points jersey, of course.
Elia, complimenti per I punti. Sei molto vicino a îdʒiːro. Domani pensi già
very, very close to îdʒiːro.
Provi a stare nelle fughe magari per
Are you going to try maybe getting the breakaway tomorrow, get an intermediate sprint? Of course, the next few stages are going to be really difficult for the sprinters to take points. But of course, we're so close with îdʒiːro Prominence. So I think we're going to try and maybe sneak a point or 2 each and play it on the nice sprint in Milan.
No, sicuramente la squadra è forte, come avete visto oggi.
Yeah, the team's really strong. We've done a lot of work for Ricci.
Credo che sia il giusto regalo per Kiri perché lavora
It's a perfect gift for Kiri today because he does so much work for the team.
Grazie, Elia.
And it's nice for him to win here in Valdobbiadene.
Grazie, Elia. Thank you, Elia Viviani. And let's welcome the pink jersey wearer once again. He's got it back. It's Alberto Contador.
Alberto, enhorabuena, menuda.
Alberto, well, congratulations.
Gracias.
How did you do it?
Estoy muy contento, pero
thank you. I'm really happy. But my legs are absolutely killing me. It's really painful. I'm not sure how I was today. The wind change was difficult as well. But I'm really happy with the result today. You've got to be really happy because after the bad luck of yesterday, but everybody looks as though they've taken their foot off the gas today in your team and they've given you maximum confidence. Yeah, the teams have been absolutely really impressive. Of course, yesterday at 3.2k from the line we had the climb and the crash part on me, but Tosato was so clever to give me the bike and make sure I got across the line as quick as I could and limit the losses. But day by day they've been working hard and they're going to continue to do so for me.
One of the things that Alberto says then, apart from talking about the horrific pain in his legs, is the change of the wind, and you were talking to me about that as we were watching the race.
Yeah, that was for the result of the stage, but didn't affect much on the GC guys. So I'm still surprised about Alberto's how tired he's looking after this time. He really went very deep. We saw him stretching before the interview, so probably all his muscles are completely stretched. So it will be interesting how he will recover for tomorrow. But the good thing for him is that he gained a lot of time today, so he kind of take it easier tomorrow. Don't think too much about the attack. He doesn't need to answer Aru's attack, whoever's attack, that quickly tomorrow.
So how does this change the way, in any way, that Alberto will ride from now on in terms of defending much more with a bigger time gap, as you say?
I think now Alberto, that will allow him more to stay with his teammates. I think his teammates, they're going to pace the sail, especially uphill. He will stop Mick Rogers and Roman Kreuziger going up there. So if there are attacks, that there will be attacks, he doesn't need to probably answer that quick on those attacks. He probably just needs to sit with his teammates as long as possible. And in case, he will manage to deal with that gap better. And it's not the same having 19 seconds, 14 seconds advantage than having over 2.5 minutes.
Still, of course, stages to go until Milan. Let's have a look at how tomorrow's stage looks.
Stage 15 of the Giro, the first big high mountain stage in the north of the country. 4 out of 5 in terms of difficulty. High mountains for the first time from Marostica all the way up to the first climb at Rafrica. And then we've got the first category climbs to finish off the stage. Passo Duonone, and then after that, Madonna di Campiglio, with all the history that it brings. Marco Pantani and all.
Well, welcome back, and on Giro Extra we're joined now by the team owner Oleg Tinkov of Tinkoff Saxo. Tell us today, Oleg, were you surprised by how well Alberto did? I read yesterday you said this is what you expected.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know why everyone underevaluates Alberto. It's either strange for me. I knew he's going to win, and actually I hope he is going to win. And he lost because of the wind. You know, the wind has changed direction from the very beginning. It would have been, it's not the case. I'm sure he would have won. For me, he is the strongest here, and it's I don't know why somebody's surprised. For me, it was no surprise. You see his form. He's very good, and normally we're in good situation.
And from now on, you expect Alberto to hold on to the pink until Milan?
Oh, definitely. He lost yesterday. I was in the office. I was watching Eurosport and in Moscow, and I almost got a heart attack when I saw the crash and mess. You don't understand what's going on. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on there? Now we regained the pink jersey. It's very good, very emotional. Especially I just came in, I just fly in, and no, very good. I hope we will be, and it will be tough. Of course, riders from Astana still giving us hard time, and but we will push it back. And Alberto is strong, and he doesn't have to attack. They have to attack now. But we all know Alberto, he will attack anyway, right?
Oleg Tinkov, thank you very much indeed. It's great to have Oleg Tinkov joining us, and of course that he watches Eurosport. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you, Juan Antonio, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Contador surprising everybody apart from his boss. A big day for him there. The wind direction, as Oleg Tinkov says, perhaps preventing him winning the stage. Tomorrow, we'll see how his legs are. He said they were killing him at the end of today. Tomorrow, stage 15 takes us from Marostica to Madonna di Campiglio. 1:30 on British Eurosport. If you're watching on the continent, Central European time at 2:30. Vasil Kirienko wins the stage at stage 14 today. A difficult time trial from Sean Kelly, me, Rob Hatch, and the rest of the team. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow as Aru begins his journey back.